It's a blockbuster clash at the Adelaide Oval this evening in what very well could be a grand final preview. It's the third place Port Adelaide hosting the second place Western Bulldogs on Grandstand AFL. And despite their ladder position, it's been a difficult fortnight for both teams. The Power are 1-2 against top 8 sides after their loss to Brisbane, whilst the Western Bulldogs had to come from behind to knock off Carlton in round 8. Aaron Bryan's with you to call the action this evening, and alongside me as always is Neil Cross. Welcome, Crossy.
Aaron, really good to be here. Looking forward to this. As you mentioned, it is a marquee matchup. I know Port coach Ken Hinkley has sort of played down the idea of it's still early in the season, but I reckon 9 rounds in, this will be a really good indication of where these sides will be towards the end of the season.
I know they've played Richmond, they've played the Eagles and the Lions, but technically this is the highest ranked team that Port Adelaide will face so far this year, so it's a big test for them and also for the Western Bulldogs, as I touched on, in a bit of a form slump after their loss to Richmond, and tonight they can prove that they truly are a premiership contender. Your experts this evening here at the Adelaide Oval. Firstly, Carlton premiership player Scott Camporelli. Welcome, Campo.
Thanks, Aaron, Crossy and Gav. Really looking forward to this game. Obviously, the top couple of teams in the competition. Bulldogs 7-1, obviously in really good form. The only one they dropped against was the Tigers. They are a little vulnerable against Carlton at stages, but still good enough to get it done. But really looking forward to this. Port have had their colours lowered against Brisbane, and obviously West Coast, particularly through the middle of the ground, contested possession, clearance, which is what Port actually pride themselves on. They're up against arguably the best midfield in the competition at the moment.
Alongside Scott Camporelli, it's a pleasure to welcome back two-time premiership player and Brownlow medalist Gavin Wanganeen, who's been in the Northern Territory or up north recently. How did you enjoy your trip, and welcome back to Grandstand AFL?
Great to be here, guys. Had a nice trip away. It's great to be back home though, but I'm really excited about this game tonight. We've got the Dogs, who are playing a wonderful attacking brand of footy, number 1 attacking team in the AFL, and Port's third best defence in the comp, so it's going to be a really interesting battle. Both midfields are absolutely elite, and Port Adelaide coming off the showdown last week. Will they have, a few cobwebs, or will they be a little bit flat? So it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back. I'm really excited about this game.
It's interesting that statistically these two sides are so even on paper, and I know, Campo, you harp on this all the time, that the midfield generally wins the game, but is it that simple tonight that we can break it down to whichever midfield gets on top of the other will end up becoming the victor?
Well, I hate to think that I harp on it, Aaron. It's just that the reality is over the time, and Gav would probably be able to back me up, normally the midfield that gets on top, what that means is it gives their forwards the opportunity and supply to kick a winning score. That's what it's about. It's about winning field position, particularly in the modern day game. You hear coaches all the time say we want to play a front half game. That doesn't happen unless your midfield group stands up. That doesn't happen if you win clearances and get the ball in your front half. So I just think if Port can at least break even through there tonight, I think they've got much more firepower forward. If the Doggies get hold of them and lock it in their front half, I just think it's a really hard night for Port to get it done.
The team changes ahead of bounce down, so for Port Adelaide, there's no late changes firstly. For the Power, 2 changes for them following the showdown. Peter Laddams comes in to replace the suspended Scott Lycett, who received a 4-match ban for his dangerous tackle on Ned McHenry. Riley Bonner returns to the side as well, been missing after a hamstring injury earlier in the year, so he's their second inclusion. Dan Houston out after a couple of shoulder knocks. He's finally been given the rest, so that's the changes for Port. Meanwhile, for the Dogs, 3 ins for them. Bailey Williams returns, Cody Waitman and Rourke Smith play their first games of the year. Buku Karmas was omitted, which was a little bit of a surprise. I think he played quite well in his debut, but omitted tonight. Hayden Crozier has been managed and is actually the medical sub this evening. Lockie Hunter out with a broken hand, so he'll miss a fair bit of footy, unfortunately, for the Dogs, who are already without Josh Dunkley. Gavin, I did want to touch on this a little bit, the fact that the Power decided to go for Laddams instead of Sam Hayes, that decided to go for a ruckman, I guess, who can play a bit more around the ground rather than a straight-up tap ruck. But do you think in the matchup tonight where the Bulldogs are only playing Jordan Sweet, it was the right call to do that?
Yeah, possibly. I think it's the right call. I mean, Big Laddams, he's like an extra midfielder, and we know how impressive the Dogs are inside with the guys like Liberatore, McRae. I mean, just having an extra big fella who can compete like a small fella, it just puts the extra pressure on the Dogs, and hopefully, for Port's sake, they can get the dominance going forward. He brings aggression as well as a big fella, and you need big guys using their body really well and putting a little bit of fear into the smaller midfielders.
There'll be a bit of eyes on the Western Bulldogs tonight as well because of who Luke Beveridge named in his team selection. So he decided to put 16 of the 22 out of position in the regular team announcements, which I imagine was a bit of a joke towards some of the journalists he'd been clashing with over the past few weeks. And we won't be seeing the All-Australian bench that he named of Treloar, Bontempelli, McRae not starting on the field. But the other big talking point around them surrounding their team was Riley West, who tonight is an emergency, isn't the medical sub this evening. But the conversation around Scott West and how parents can get involved when their players or their children aren't actually performing and getting selected drew a little bit of unwanted attention to the Western Bulldogs during the week. And I guess, Campo, you probably know a little bit more about this, having a few kids coming through the system.
Well, Gav's probably closer to me to the system more than anything. But, once again, we spoke about it this morning on Grandstand. Unfortunately, if you get emotional and you start putting stuff on social media, that's not going to end well, Gav. So particularly, you would have thought that Scotty perhaps might have known a little bit smarter than that. But unfortunately, it's one of those things that you can't take back. And I'm sure Riley would have had a stern word to his dad when he got home over the dinner table that night.
The text line 0467 922 891 if you'd like to get in touch with us. The fifth member of our commentary team down on the boundary is Josh Money this evening. Josh.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Bear with me. I'm having to compete with the Port Adelaide faithful and never tear us apart. But beautiful conditions for football tonight. 14 degrees, a slight breeze to the northern end of the ground, and that's the direction the Bulldogs will kick in this first quarter after Marcus Bontempelli, the Doggies captain, won the coin toss. Let's have a look at the boys starting on the bench tonight for Port Adelaide. Miles Bergman, Stephen Motlock, Willem Drew and Riley Bonner, who, as you mentioned, replaces the injured Dan Houston this week. Marty Frederick is the medical sub, just as he was in last week's showdown. And Luke Beveridge, he was playing ducks and drakes. A slightly different looking starting bench for the Bulldogs. Pat Lipinski, Bailey Smith, Cody Waitman and Caleb Daniel starting on the bench. Hayden Crozier is the medical sub.
It's a mammoth clash tonight here at the Adelaide Oval. Third host, second. Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you alongside Scott Camporelli and Gavin Wanganeen. Port Adelaide hosting the Western Bulldogs in round 9 action.
Fascinating contest ahead of us. First bounce, down it goes. Laddam's back into the side, gets a slight advantage out of that. Picked up briefly by Bontempelli. Laddams gets it, fresh air shot off his boot. Bontempelli knocks it out, so does Sweet. They go forward, they'll get it to Johannesson. His hand pass just a little too severe for Rourke Smith, but they bundle it inside 50 through Bontempelli and then across the boundary out there on the eastern side of the ground. Treloar unable to get control.
The other game at the moment over in Melbourne at the Docklands. Richmond currently trailing the Giants by 3 points, 2-3-15 to 2 straight 12. And if you'd like a call of that, it is available on the AFL app. So toss back in. Loudham's got front position but couldn't tap it down for the power. Flicked out. Hand pass gets to McRae. Kicks into the 50 for the Dogs. Hartlett there to cut it off on the bounce. Hand pass out wide for the power to the scoreboard pocket. Winds defensively to Pau Pepper, who can clear it and hits Boak all alone in the middle of a few Dogs. Hands it off to the running Amon. A shank of a kick through the centre square. Marshall can meet it though cleanly. Spins around and chips it towards the 50. All alone is Georgiades. Takes it on the paint. Could have moved it on if he wanted to. Decides to in the end. Flat kick to the pocket. Fantasia leading out. Takes it on the chest. 40 from goal. 45-degree angle to the right.
Well, I love that. I love that by Port. What they got to do is try and put these Bulldog defenders under pressure one-on-one. They're not overly big, Gav. They like to support each other. I love the fact that they went really quick off that. Port Adelaide took their opportunity and then got one-on-ones deep inside their forward 50, and Fantasia gets an easy shot on goal.
So Razio Fantasia, an inaccurate year so far, 15-16. Starts outside the 50, kicks from 45, never looked like missing. A great start for Port Adelaide at home. They strike first, 1 straight 6. We've just hit the 2-minute mark on Grandstand AFL.
Well, the Doggies would be disappointed straight out of a D50 stoppage. It's always a cardinal thing, Gav, as a midfield coach, stoppage coach, to get scored against out of that part of your ground. You've squeezed the ground. You should be set up defensively really well. But Port was essentially 2 hack kicks forward. You know, footy sometimes works that way, but I love when Travis Boak just flicked that handball to Amon, used his legs, broke the lines, and all of a sudden they got Bulldogs defenders out of position, running hard back towards goal, and it gave Dixon, Fantasia and Georgiades virtually the whole half of the ground to lead into.
Just a problem for Gavin Wanganeen's microphone, just there for a moment. Back in the middle of the ground, set to go again. Port's won 4 of their past 5 against the Bulldogs. Now, back in the middle, the scrounge is on, and Liberatore just got it back actually to Dale. And then wide they've come to McNeil, just behind centre wing on this broadcast side of the ground. He's got a short option, he goes to it in Giray. So Giray backs up just near the interchange gates, takes his time, no options to go around, so he decides to go down the ground, and that sets it up for Jonas to come across the pack and thump it over the boundary line at left half forward for the Dogs.
So Port Adelaide hot early, 1 straight 6. The Western Bulldogs hoping to answer back. The text line a bit different tonight as well, 0467 922 891 if you'd like to get in touch. On the reset, tap down towards Dale, he spins it around for the Dogs, a worm burner into the 50. Treloar tries to gather and he's gang tackled by a couple. Somehow got boot to ball. Bontempelli picks it up, curls it towards home. Aaliyah in the defensive goal square cuts it off. No score for the Bulldogs yet so far, 4-minute mark of the first quarter.
Aaliyah goes out, far side of the ground. Boat leading just outside defensive 50. Inboard once he takes the mark. The kick to Wines was good. The run was there from Amon. He received the hand pass. Poor kick down the ground. Intercepted by DeRay. Couldn't take the mark though. Gray almost had it. Now Bailey Dale does. He gives it to DeRay, who's run down straight away. Big Charlie Dixon got him. Came from the blind side. Now he's in the middle of the ground. Dixon drops it short. Burn-Jones, they go diagonally across the square to him, and then he hands off for Burton, sends it deep. Big pack forms, comes to the ground. Dogs have the numbers. Williams gets a hand pass away to McNeil.
Short kick across to Hannon as well, who's in the defensive 50, usually up forward for the Dogs. Chips it short to Bontempelli on the boundary line, left half back. Sends it up the western wing. All alone and marking there is Scott. Hands it off to the running Bontempelli. The captain heads into the 50. A one-on-one there. Bruce tries to tunnel Aaliyah underneath it. Beat both of them. Cleary comes to make amends for the power. Hands it off and Boak will just carry it over the boundary line at right half back. 5-minute mark of the opening quarter. Port Adelaide up 1 straight 6. The Dogs yet to score.
Well, even in that earlier passage, once again, it was Amon, just that through the middle of the ground. He'd be disappointed with that. That was probably another inside 50 to Port.
So off the ruck contest, a little fumble by Laddams found its way to Liberatore, sends it inside 50. Aaliyah comes out, hand passes it forward in the pocket. Amon was taken in the tackle, released it. Aaliyah thumped to the ground as well. Now Treloar has it, but it's outside that defensive 50. May have even rolled down to his foot. No, said the umpire. It wasn't out on the full, so we're going to throw in out there at right half forward for the Dogs. Eastern side of the Adelaide Oval. Port Adelaide by 6 points.
Great contest tonight here at the Adelaide Oval. Crowd up and about as well early. Missed both ruckmen. Treloar gathers cleanly, hands it off to Dale. Another inside 50 for him. Trying to set it up in front of Johannesson, who gathers very cleanly. Bursts into the left forward pocket and Hartlett gets him. Ran him down close to goal, holding the ball. Great defensive effort from the power once again.
Gee, that was a great tackle by Hartlett. I mean, they're the pressure acts that can really lift the team. I mean, they were beaten at the back there from that stoppage, so it was a really important tackle there.
Hartlett with the defensive kick and forced to send it long. Ball comes off the pack to ground. Fights on again. Drew picked it up. Great hand pass to Marshall on the outside. Then to Boak, and then another one to Motlop. He's going across the ground. Gives it to Burn-Jones, looking for an option. Finally gave it to Motlop over the top, down to half forward with a kick was good to Rosie. Rosie, left side of the centre square. From 60 goes long, looking for Laddams. He's back there. Oh, he should have taken the ball. He dropped an easy mark. Now he follows up, picks it up, and Bailey Dale's got him and bulldogs him down. And they've turned it over in that back pocket, the Dogs.
Liberatore went to Lipinski and McRae can clear it out of the 50. Heads towards left half back. Cleary underneath it, spoils it down. Johannesson's there. Hands it off to Norton, who slipped. Caught in the tackle. Unfortunately, it was high for Farrell. Norton slipped into it. Free kick to the Western Bulldogs. So Aaron Norton a bit far from home. Just outside defensive 50 and called to play on. Farrell will quickly approach. Short kick towards Lipinski inside the boundary line. He takes it at left half back. The Dogs a bit slow to move the ball forward here. Lipinski decides to go long down the line. Aaliyah coming out with Bruce, but Bontempelli at the front. cut it off before it even reached them. Again, a nice mark in front of the benches.
Not a lot available for him as the players flood back, if you like, down to the defensive end for Port Adelaide. Down the line he went. It went to Bruce in the end, off hands, and from the boundary line sends it to the top of the goal square. Off hands it comes. Rourke Smith tries to keep it in, but it's over the boundary line next to the behind post, the right behind post in front of the scoreboard. Down there, which reads 1 straight for Port Adelaide, and the Dogs yet to get a score.
So toss back in. Ruckman about 25 out. Laddam's got rid of his opponent's sweep. Couldn't get a clean tap though. Few bodies dive over the ball. Burne-Jones finally clears it, just threw an errant kick. Bounces out of the 50. Motlop there to meet it. Gathers cleanly. Hand pass back to Bonner. He threw it on the boot. A flat, ugly kick. Didn't work for Rosie. Daniel mops it up. The Dogs through Smith now. Gets it to Liberatore. Skies it from 45. Bruce is rising there in the goal square and got it. Josh Bruce rose a bit early. Still managed to pick it out of the air as he fell to ground. He's 10 out from goal. Slight angle to the right.
Well, it's a game of opportunities. Inside 50s, 8-3 to the Bulldogs and 6-1 in clearances. So in terms of field position, we spoke about it during the start of the game. Eventually those tides will turn and your forwards will get hold of it.
Josh Bruce. Third for goals coming into this round. Continues his tally. Kicks it from 20 and the Dogs get on the board. 1 straight 6 apiece now. 9-minute mark of the opening quarter on Grandstand AFL. Over at the Docklands, it's the Giants leading Richmond by 3 points. Time on there in the first quarter. 2-3-15 to 2 straight 12.
And the other thing too, Port's inside 50s have all come off the back of turnovers in their defensive half of the ground, and they've used their speed and their run, and they look really dangerous. Laddam's dropped the mark inside forward 50. That would have been another, obviously, a goal. But they came back the other way, the Bulldogs. The only thing I want to keep an eye on, I've watched a couple of games, guys, and Aliir, I love the way he plays, but he's got to put some body on Josh Bruce there. He can't allow him just to jump at the ball freely, and I saw it against Jack Rewald against Richmond, and I thought Jack could have easily had a night out on him. But tonight, I'll be interested to see how that looks.
Bounce down in the middle. Laddam's got the tap down. Smith over the ball. Bailey Smith for the Dogs. We'll call for a bounce. Ball's gone all about 5 metres towards the Dogs' end of the ground, which is the Cathedral, or the northern end of the ground. Out of the ruck contest again. Ball on the ground and too high. Player under it was Amon. And coming over the top, Bruce was the offender.
Amon plays on. Long kick towards the 50 for the Power. Dixon tries to lead out but was blocked by a couple. Off hands it spills to McRae. Gets it to Treloar. Now at right half back for the Dogs. Bailey Smith can run through the eastern side. Sends it long towards Bruce. Aliir this time comes across and fists it into the 10th row, I reckon. He smashed that.
That's his strength, isn't it? Aliir's ability to get across, get a fist on the ball, and, Bruce had no chance there.
So Bruce will go on the ruck now against Laddams. It's a right half forward for the Dogs. Gray off it, but he turns it over by hand to Treloar. Off to Caleb Daniel. Goes long into the forward pocket, and Waitman goes back with a flight and takes a good mark for the Dogs.
Ken would be concerned with this. I know that Port is still in the game and it's 1 goal apiece, but 7-2 in clearances already. This is just starting to get out of control. Contested possession 16-9. So we know the Bulldogs, we said coming into the game, this is their strength. This is a real field possession game at the moment.
Cody Waitman from 30 metres out, his first game for the year and his first behind for the night. It clatters into the post about halfway up, and it's still a little wobbly. Dogs lead for the first time tonight by just that minor score. 1 goal, 1-7, plays Port Adelaide 1 straight 6.
You'd think they'd want to be pushing as hard as they can to break even in the clearances, and they can't rely on winning the ball in their defensive 50 to creating attacks from there.
Absolutely.
Jonas plays on from the defensive goal square, sends it long. Dixon could have brought it to ground. Was manhandled from behind, but still managed to get it to Motlop. Runs through the centre square, finds the open Marshall. He marks true centre. Heads towards the 50 now. Georgiades got the run. Couldn't take it against Jure. He did well to regather himself. Hand pass was a turnover though. Farrell for the power gave it to Georgiades. He's run down. Winds it right half forward. Hand pass to Drew, who goes back to Burne-Jones. Clunks it into the 50. Gray couldn't rise. Bontempelli nearly took out his teammate. Didn't take it. Gray had a shot and it was smothered over the boundary line in the right forward pocket to be tossed back in. Josh Money on the boundary.
Yeah, you've noted a few of the skill errors, particularly Peter Ladham's drop mark in the goal square. It does seem a bit dewy down here. It's disingenuous to call it drizzle, but it is quite slippery. The Dogs just seem to be a bit cleaner at the moment.
Boundary throw in. Dixon comes to the front. Somehow he got it to Wines, who somehow on the turn got a kick away. And was it marked? No, it wasn't. I didn't think it was 15. The umpire said, no, that's not a mark to Alex Keith. And he ran over the boundary line, so we'll get a throw in just 5 or so metres around from the behind post in right forward pocket for Port Adelaide.
Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you. Your experts this evening, Gavin Wanganeen, Scott Camporelli, with Josh Money on the boundary as well. Toss back in. Dixon tried to take it out of the ruck but couldn't. McRae's hand pass cut off by Amon, who's caught in a tackle himself. Just dumped into the turf by Cordy. Ball up to come. 35 out, straight in front of the Power goal. Currently it's the Dogs up by a point, 1-1-7 to 1-6. Quick reset, Dixon slaps it towards the goal face. Marshall has to apply a tackle. Keith now gets a hand pass out to Smith, who sells some candy, gives it to Dale. Further out wide to Smith, and the Dogs can clear it up the eastern side.
Wasn't a great kick, was pretty low, but the Dogs follow up. They are very quick to put on the tackle, and that time it was Bergman who suffered. They forced the ball up out there at right half back for the Western Bulldogs. Ball in the contest comes back to Bailey. Smith gave it to Bruce by hand, and then McRae, and he went back to Bailey Dale. And Dale did well to get around the tackler. Gave it off to Caleb Daniel. Brilliant kick by Daniel, centre of the ground. He found Sweet it was in the air, Bontempelli in fact. Now they spread it wide by hand. Umpire's called play on advantage. He's going to bring it back. There was a free kick somewhere, and it'll go to Norton. He's still inside the centre square for the Dogs.
Heads to left half forward. A nice kick leading out Bontempelli, who's been everywhere so far in the early stages. Called to play on, so he'll pop it towards the top of the goal square. McNeil's getting a run at it, spoiled behind by Hartlett. Spills to Bonner. He'll get the clearance out of the 50 for the Power, but wasn't really heading to anyone in particular. Bailey Williams underneath it. One of their three inclusions will take the mark.
He goes inside straight away, finds Cordy just ahead of the centre circle. Wobbly old kick inside 50. It was a shocker. Brilliant turnover taken by Amon. Had to go low to take a chest mark. So it wasn't good, but the Port can reload from half back, which they've had to do a few times, as our experts Scott Camporelli and Gavin Wanganeen have already discussed. On centre wing, they get a hand pass out to Powell Pepper. He turns it over, goes down the line. McRae intercepts. Off he goes to Bailey Smith. Well back into defensive 50 to Bailey Dale, and they spring it out the other side to Caleb Daniel.
So the Dogs just a bit unsure where to go once again. Daniel pop it short down the line to Dale, who takes it inside the boundary line. Over at the Docklands, the Giants now out by 9, 4-3-27. The Tigers 3 straight 18. Here it is the Western Bulldogs by a point. Dale kicks just over the head of Johannesson. It was an ugly kick over the boundary line as well. Free kick to go to the Power. And that will be just forward of left half back for them. So Riley Bonner can bring it into play. Bit of the heat taken out of this game in the past few minutes. Bonner decides to load up the eastern wing. A big pack awakes. Marshall will rise. Through his hands it goes. The fall of the ball. Ladham's got a socker straight to the arms of Dale. The Western Bulldogs now through Daniel. Hands it out towards Wood. And back up to right half forward he'll go.
Wood looking for the strength of Waitman. So the smaller player in that pack got away from Bergman, took the mark. Inside 50, he goes straight away looking for Bontempelli. Brought it to the ground. Brilliant row by McNeil. Slides the ball through for another goal. Dogs have their second of the evening. 2-1-13 plays Port Adelaide, 1 goal straight, 6. We've gone 16 minutes in this opening term on Grandstand AFL. Your experts Scott Camporelli and Gavin Wanganeen.
Gee, the Dogs are just showing when they get the footy in their defensive 50, they seem to better move the ball without too much pressure. And it's just coming out too easy, and they can get it from one end of the ground to the other and just giving their forwards a really good look at the moment.
I just thought they were really poor there. Ryan Burton just let McNeil just go to the front. It's trying to intercept mark too much at the moment, Port Adelaide. Even that one there, Bontempelli versus Aliir, we mentioned it earlier. Aliir's running into just trailing in Bontempelli, put no physical body work on him at all. In fact, Bontempelli probably should have marked that ball if we have a look at the replay. He had 2 hands on it, but Ryan Burton just nowhere near his player.
So the Dogs by 7. Dixon in the middle now slaps it down in the ruck contest. Didn't favour Powell Pepper. Coming through, Rourke-Smith bowled over Powell Pepper as he tried to get the ball. Has to tackle Drew. Boak now for the power. Looked to feed it towards Dixon. Hartlett busted in to try and get it out as well. Messy football in the square. Couple of tackles applied and that ball isn't coming out this time. It'll be tossed up. Still inside the centre square, but a bit closer to this Western side. The Western Bulldogs up 2-1-13 to 1 straight 6. On the reset. Sweet this time gets the better position against Dixon. Tapped it down. McRae flicked it out. Rourke-Smith to Bailey Smith. Hands it forward to left half forward. Free kick for a hold. They've taken the advantage. Johannesson goes into the 50. Scott takes the mark or the free kick. Either way, it's the Western Bulldogs ball. 20 from goal, straight in front.
They're looking really dangerous, the Bulldogs, particularly through this front half of the ground. I mean, they just use the ball so well. Once again, the Port Adelaide defenders out of position once the ball just changed angles, and Jonas is out of position now. So they're really losing the field position battle. Clearances -8 for Port, and contested possession on top in that area there.
And Scott comes in and misses, hitting the left-hand goalpost. So 1 goal, 1 behind, 1 goal, 1 behind for the Western Bulldogs. They're now up by 8 points. It's 2-2-14, plays Port Adelaide at 1 straight 6. Approaching time on in the opening quarter on Grandstand AFL.
Skipper Tom Jonas brings it in for Port Adelaide. Runs his full 15, sends it long. Duray comes middle of the pack, just thumps it forward. Picked up by Johannesson. Lost it straight away in a tackle. And now the scrum forms and the umpire says, I'll have it. It's between the centre square and the top of the 50 arc. Western Bulldogs gone forward more often. Off the pack, off the ruck contest taken by Motlop, sent to the centre of the ground. Again, the Dogs get a hand pass out. It was loose. Gray picks it up for Port Adelaide. Tried to give it to Marshall. Liberatore barrels in and then gets it out to Bontempelli, and then wide he goes for Rourke-Smith. Inside 50 again go the Dogs. Off the hands. It came to Waitman from Johannesson, and Waitman from 35 sends it home for another one for the Dogs. So Waitman with a brilliant finish after some superb work again around the stoppage from Port Adelaide, or rather from the Western Bulldogs, and they go to 3-2-20. Port Adelaide just a 1 goal in this opening term, which is now into time on.
Well, you called it well, Crossy. It was just Libba just got his hands on it and just flicked it to the outside, and that's when the Bulldogs are at their best. Once you lose balance around the contest and the Bulldogs are out, they're going to make you pay. Once again, inside 50, lose field position. All of a sudden, it's 1-on-1, coming in thick and fast, and really nice finish. But once again, looking at the replay, Hamish Hartlett nowhere near Waitman at all, just tailing off him. That's 3 goals that the defenders have just been in no physical pressure on the opposition at all.
Yeah, as defenders, you've got to be a lot closer, putting serious pressure on your forward, just so it's not too easy for them.
The Dogs nearly get another clearance. Sweep down to Bailey Smith. His kick was smothered. Burn-Jones run down in the tackle. They're just surging, the Bulldogs. Pushed forward to Treloar. Runs to the 50. Centres his kick to the top of the goal square. Norton got a hand to it. Couldn't bring it down. May have been tackled without it, and he was. Free kick in the scoreboard pocket to Aaron Norton. 5 out from goal, the tightest of angles. The Western Bulldogs are everywhere at the Adelaide Oval.
Sheer weight of numbers, guys. When the ball's going inside the forward 50 like that, it just puts so much pressure on the Port defenders that the Bulldogs forwards' confidence goes up, and they just end up having shots on goal time and time again.
Norton looks to curl it around and goes all the way across the goal face, out of bounds on the full. So didn't get to capitalise there. The score remains 3-2-20 to 1 straight 6. The Dogs up by 14.
So with the free kick, Hamish Hartlett sends it long, off hands, down at right half back on this broadcast side for Port Adelaide over the boundary line. We'll get a throw in. Port Adelaide with the first goal of the night inside a minute from Fantasia, and there's been 3 answers, and could well have been 4 for the Dogs. Now, off the stoppage, went to Bailey Smith, inside 50, goes for Norton, who puts up one hand, and that's all he needs. And in fact, I've given credit to Norton. In fact, it was Waitman, the smaller of the two players, who managed to get their hand up right at the front of the pack. And Waitman will be shooting for his second goal.
Well, they're in serious trouble here, Port. The Bulldogs have let them off the hook. It's 16 inside 50s to 6.
Waitman standing 178 centimetres. What a mark that was, and he finishes off as well. Fourth of the night for the Dogs. They're looking really good. 4-2-26 on the board for the Western Bulldogs. Port Adelaide, after scoring the opening goal of the night, haven't added to it. 1 goal straight, 6. Bulldogs by 20 points after 23 minutes.
Well, they're getting belted in all aspects of the game, Port. I mean, they started off really well. I love the way that they attacked it, but they're just not getting their hands on the ball, Gav.
No.
I mean, they've 18 to 10 marks. They're getting smashed in handball receives on the outside. They're getting beaten by 11 in contested possession, -9 in clearance, and it's 16-6 inside 50s. The Port Adelaide defenders are out on their feet, and now what happens is Port have thrown one up around the stoppage to try and help. That's allowing the Bulldogs, Keith, and these guys to actually have a drop-off, which is generating their attack out of their back half.
Quarter time at the Docklands. It is the Giants leading over Richmond by 9 points, 4-3-27 to 3 straight 18. Here at the Adelaide Oval, the Western Bulldogs up by 20 points. In the middle, Pau Pepper tries to gather. Tapped it towards Treloar instead. The Dogs head out towards the eastern side. Bailey Smith has a run at it. Miles Bergman up against him. Neither got a clean possession. McNeil can gather inside the boundary line. Hand pass back to Bailey Smith. Has a bit of time to think about it. Kicks defensively to Keith at right half back for the Dogs.
Thinks about the inside ball, eventually decides, yep, he'll go back to Bailey Williams. He's 25 out, straight in front of goal. Takes the mark, spreads it wide for Duray. Marks it outside defensive 50, goes straight away down the line, looking for Johannesson. Edges his man under the ball and Hartlett. And now he's got it in his hands from Liberatore. And inside 50, this time it is Norton. He was in space. He lost Jonas, and it was a beautiful kick.
Well, they're just getting beaten in the contest all over the ground. They allowed Bulldogs to shift the ball from one side of the ground to the other. There was confusion. There was no communication. Connor Rosie just let his opponent run and get an uncontested mark. Poor contest by Hamish Hartlett again. Poor Jonas and the defenders. They would be livid with their midfielders.
So from 35 metres, Norton from the mark. Kicks straight. The Dogs are well and truly up and yapping. Western Bulldogs 5-2-32. Port Adelaide 1 goal straight, 6 after 25 minutes on Grandstand AFL.
Yeah, it's really important here for Port Adelaide to at least get their hands on the footy so they can have an opportunity to slow the game down and take a little bit of the momentum away from the Doggies. If they don't do that, they're going to be in serious strife of a one-sided game tonight.
Well, the Bulldogs have had almost double the possessions from Port. That's part of the reason, but the possession number is a factor, but it's where they're winning it and how they're doing it. They're getting beaten on the inside, they're getting beaten on the outside with their run. They've lost field position, and they don't even look like scoring, Port Adelaide. But you're right, Ken would be wanting this quarter to time out really quickly so he can get down. I dare say you might see a little bit of old-time rock and roll at quarter time.
Bit of steam will be coming out, literally.
So Laddams back into the ruck against Sweet now. Laddams with the tap down. McRae tries to cut it off. Boak wraps him up. We'll get another ball up inside the centre circle. So game high 26-point lead to the Western Bulldogs, who have had a run of 5 unanswered goals in this first quarter. In the middle, Laddams again wins the tap. Boak may have been held. Umpire saw it. Free kick to the Power. They'll take the advantage. Rosie sends it long into the 50. Georgiades underneath it. Nearly took it. Was taken out on the way down. Gray trying to gather in the right forward pocket. 45 from goal comes in. Hand pass out of the 50 to Bonner. Swings out of a tackle rather. A 1-2 with Gray. Bonner runs in from 40. Heads towards goal. It's curling and on the line it's taken. Great mark coming across from Mitch Georgiades, who can ensure this will be a major for the Power.
Well, dare we say it was sort of one against the flow, but it went back to a centre bounce clearance, Gav. They actually got field position, put some pressure. Once again, 6v6 from a centre bounce situation. Alex Keith wants to come in and support. All of a sudden, there's an extra number at ground level, and Robbie Gray is as clean as anyone in the competition, just makes stuff happen.
Georgiades straight in front, kicks from the top of the goal square. Exactly what the Power needed in the late stages of this opening quarter. They finally answer back. 2 straight 12 they are now to the Western Bulldogs. 5-2-32. We've just hit the 27-minute mark in the first quarter on Grandstand AFL. Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you. Your experts, Gavin Wanganeen and Scott Camporelli.
It was an important goal. I mean, with 2 minutes to go, it just puts them somewhere near. If they can maybe squeeze one more out and don't let the Bulldogs score, they go in 2 goals down. They would probably be thinking we've just got out of jail for a quarter. But the Bulldogs have really dominated this game in all facets of the game. But they just got to hold on Port here and just allow them to reset at quarter time.
Yeah, the centre bounce clearance, very important here for Port Adelaide.
So late in the opening quarter, the Western Bulldogs in front. They've won all 8 first quarters this year, and they're on their way again in round 9. Out of the middle, Sweet got the hands, and out the back it came to Bontempelli. Wasn't a great hand pass. Drew picked it up, put Port inside 50. Easton Wood back with the flight of the ball. It came to Cordy and then to Georgiades off the left foot in the pocket, rolling the ball, and hits the post. So Easton Wood just looks like he was hampered, may have fallen awkwardly as he went back with the flight of that ball too. So just a minor score to Port Adelaide. Margin now 19 points.
Dogs don't waste any time. Dale plays on, sends it to Bailey Williams. Then McNeil heads down the eastern side. Jonas cuts it off with a great fly. Couldn't clunk the mark though, but does enough to force it over the boundary line, centre wing on that eastern side. It's currently the Western Bulldogs 5-2-32, leading Port Adelaide 2-1-13 over at Docklands. The Giants now by 20 points over the Tigers, 6-3-39 to 3-1-19. Toss back in. Liberatore gets the clearance for the Bulldogs. Norton taps it straight down to Treloar. Bangs it into the 50. The bounce favours Bruce, who's got space on Aaliyah. Tries to curl it. It's too far left, and so far left that it's out on the full. No score to the Western Bulldogs.
It's so far left, it was 5 rows back on the full. Just didn't strike it right. So in that back pocket, Darcy Byrne-Jones takes the free kick for Port Adelaide. Comes on this broadcast side of the ground. Cordy jumps, and then there's a hand pass slickly out to Caleb Daniel from the middle of the pack, and it would have been Scott who gave that. Now the kick down the ground, and the umpire spotted one, and it'll go Port Adelaide's way for holding in the contest. Darcy Byrne-Jones will be the recipient. We'll go quickly down to the boundary. Josh Money.
As you noted, Crossy, Easton Wood came off the ground a bit proppy. He's now got his head in hands talking to doctors. We know he's had a shocking run with injuries. Hayden Crozier warming up doesn't look good.
Byrne-Jones heads down to the western wing to a contest there. The Dogs have numbers again. Liberatore gets it to McRae. Again towards the 50 they go. Norton leading out, tapped it down. Scott couldn't gather cleanly. Carries it over the boundary line on the paint of 50. And the left forward pocket for the Western Bulldogs. Currently up by 19 points now. This was supposed to be the game of the round, but we've had a run of blowouts at the Adelaide Oval in the past month, and I'm sure Port fans wouldn't want to see it go against them.
I was going to say early call.
Off the ruck contest, Rosie taps it in towards the Dogs 50. Trying to scoop it up was Liberatore with one hand, flicked it out to McRae, then Bontempelli shrugs 3 tackles, curls it from 45. Marcus Bontempelli!
Gee, oh my gosh. I mean, I was only thinking to myself, just throughout the course of this first quarter, how smooth the Bont moves. And look, he's as good as I've seen for a while. That's impressive.
All class from Marcus Bontempelli, the 6th goal for the Western Bulldogs, out to a 25-point lead now on the stroke of quarter time. 6-2-38 plays 2-1-13 on Grandstand AFL.
Yeah, that really hurts. But you're right, Gav. He's actually one of my favourites. I don't mind saying that. He's one of my favourites to watch.
He's mine too
now. He's so clean. I mean, the size of him, but his acceleration there, just to burst through and then kick that goal was something special.
Just the confidence to hold on to it for that extra half a second so he can get the kick off.
Yeah.
Marcus Bontempelli, 193 centimetres, 93 kilos, was moving like a small rover then.
The centre half back crossing a few years ago.
Yeah, it was. A ruckman not that long ago either. Now out of the middle will be Bontempelli. This time he fumbles, having received a hand pass from McRae, but he still got it back and then gave it to DeRay. Down to half forward. Somehow the ball found space, and the siren brings an end, and there's a little bit of push and shove after the siren. Hannon involved for the Dogs, and Tom Jonas, the captain of Port Adelaide, leading the way. He's got a fistful of a couple of jumpers of the Western Bulldogs, but it's all over, I think. They seem to be breaking up. Well, the Bulldogs had the best of the fight in the opening quarter. Don't worry about that. They have yet to lose an opening quarter this season. And at quarter time here at the Adelaide Oval on Grandstand AFL, it's the Western Bulldogs 6-2-38, Port Adelaide 2-1-13.
The goal scorers at the first break for the Western Bulldogs, 2 to Cody Waitman, who's playing his first game for the season and his 4th overall after being picked up with pick 15 in 2019. Singles to Bontempelli, Bruce, McNeil and Norton. Meanwhile, for Port Adelaide, singles to Fantasia, who kicked the first goal of the game, and then Mitch Georgiades, who's had the last for the Power as well. So the Western Bulldogs all over Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval to start this contest here. It's 6-2-38, playing 2-1-13 on ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital. This is Grandstand AFL.
Get your beanie on and get among the plants with the June issue of ABC Gardening Australia magazine. Do great things with bromeliads. Check out top ideas for improving your garden and learn how to grow Whopper beets. And in ABC Organic Gardener, grow powerhouse spinach and quirky quince and pick up expert tips for planting a veggie patch. Gardening Australia and Organic Gardener magazines. Available from newsagents and abcmagazines.com.au.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
Flat kick to the pocket, Fantasia leading out, takes it on the chest, 40 from goal, starts outside the 50, kicks from 45, never looked like missing. A great start for Port Adelaide at home. Skies it from 45, Bruce is rising there in the goal square and got it. Josh Bruce, 3rd for goals coming into this round, continues his tally. Kicks it from 20 and the Dogs get on the board.
Inside 50 again go the Dogs. Off the hands. It came to Waitman from Johannesson. And Waitman from 35 sends it home for another one for the Dogs.
Well, they're getting belted in all aspects of the game, Port. They're just not getting their hands on the ball.
Edges his man under the ball and Hartlett. And now he's got it in his hands from Liberatore. And inside 50, this time it is Norton. He was in space. He lost Jonas. And it was a beautiful kick. So from 35 metres, Norton from the mark, kicks straight. The Dogs are well and truly up and yapping.
A 1-2 with Gray. Bonner runs in from 40, heads towards goal. It's curling and on the line it's taken. Great mark coming across from Mitch Georgiades. Georgiades straight in front, kicks from the top of the goal square. Exactly what the Power needed. Trying to scoop it up was Liberatore with one hand, flicked it out to McRae, then Bontempelli shrugs 3 tackles, curls it from 45. Marcus Bontempelli.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
The main event fixture of round 9 not entirely living up to the hype so far. The Western Bulldogs dominant early over Port Adelaide on their home turf. A run of 5 unanswered goals in the middle of that first quarter, and they're out to a 25-point lead at the first break. 6-2-38, Port Adelaide 2-1-13. Cody Waitman making an impact in his first game for the season, and Marcus Bontempelli has been everywhere for the Western Bulldogs, the captain leading in force. Over at the Docklands, it's the Giants leading Richmond midway through the second quarter by 26 points. 7-4-46 to 3-2-20. Earlier today as well, Sydney defeating Collingwood by 30 points. North Melbourne had their first win of the season, defeating Hawthorn by 7, coming back from a 32-point deficit as well to do so. And in the Q Clash, the Lions dominated the Suns by 73 points. A big win for the Brisbane Lions there. Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you alongside Gavin Wanganeen and Scott Camporelli this evening. The 5th member of our commentary team down on the boundary is Josh Money with some news.
Yes, well, Campo and Gav noted that Ken Hinkley might be giving the Port Adelaide boys a bit of a spray. Interestingly enough, it was actually Tom Jonas, the Port Adelaide captain, who grabbed the boys into the huddle initially. We've seen him do that a few times this year, and certainly he's trying to get a bit of a rise out of his players. The injury news is that Easton Wood, unfortunately for the Bulldogs, the former skipper, has got the jacket on. He has done his hamstring, the club has confirmed, so Hayden Crozier, the medical sub, will come into the game.
The text line this evening, if you'd like to get in touch with us as well, 0467 922 891. B in Mount Gambia says, disappointed my Hawks were defeated today, but my brother in heaven will be singing the Kangas song loud and proud. And it was such a big moment, I think, for a lot of Kangaroo supporters who've been through a very rough year. So a great result for them earlier today. And Dave says, hi, Aaron. I think Port Adelaide are letting the Dogs play their way. They are not sticking the tackles, but the game is not over. But how can they allow this at home? Scott Camporelli, Gavin Wanganeen, your analysis of the opening quarter.
Well, where do you start? It's everything that we probably thought it was going to be in terms of what the Bulldogs, and the number one thing as a coach or as a playing group is don't get beat by what you know. And the Bulldogs, Port have just allowed them to play exactly what our listeners come in and said. Port are getting beaten in contested possession by 15. They're getting smashed on the ground ball by 14. They're losing clearance by 11, and it's 1-5 out of the centre bounce. Inside 50s, they're losing them by 13. Marks 11 to 22, and the scoring is 3 goals from stoppage and 3 from turnover. So they're getting them both ways, the Bulldogs, and they just can't get field position, Gav. So the clearance thing has been a massive issue for them, and I have no doubt why Tom Jonas went down and hopefully would have grabbed those midfielders and given one of them an almighty spray.
Yeah, look, just the ability from the Dogs with their ball movement chains, they're uninterrupted. So it's just showing that Port are not putting anywhere near enough pressure on the Dogs, and they're just capitalising with those chains, and they're hitting the scoreboard. Their inside ball to outside ball is as good as I've seen this year. So it's going to be a very interesting second quarter, guys. I'm really looking forward to it.
Let's see if Port Adelaide can answer back. It's the Western Bulldogs by 25 points on Grandstand AFL. The second quarter underway at the Adelaide Oval. Jordan Sweet wins the tap against Laddams. Straight to Tom Liberatore. Flicks it to Bontempelli. Into the 50. Once again go the Bulldogs. Norton spills the mark. Burne-Jones mops it up for Port Adelaide. Hands it back to Allaire, who can clear it to left half back. A skyward kick that didn't really favour Rosie, and Dale held his ground. Took the mark in front for the Western Bulldogs.
Rosie slow to get up. Dale plays on. Goes inside 50 and long. And Jonas takes an intercept mark ahead of Hannon. So the Port Adelaide captain will go back. Dogs defending well. Just shut down the avenues out on the eastern side of the ground. So he goes down the line. Dixon couldn't pull it in. Keith does. He's immediately tackled by Powell Pepper. The umpire circling. Ball comes out. And it was popped up, and Hartlett knocked it towards the line and over. And boy, that's going to incense the crowd. He didn't do enough, said the umpire. He just hit it over the line. And so Dale will get the free kick for the Dogs. Goes to Rourke Smith short, wants his left foot, comes inside, sends a 25 from goal. Big pack, and there was a push somewhere in there. It'll go to Port Adelaide. Laddams will receive the relieving free kick for Port.
So Peter Laddams, the chosen ruckman to replace Scott Lycett, who's on a 4-week ban, kicks it up to left half back, through the arms of Dixon. Dale wrapped up in the tackle, couldn't dispose of it. No free kick. Spills out. Rourke Smith's sand pass was cut off. Amon just tries to push it forward for the power. Bouncing at centre wing. The Dogs again have numbers. Keith hands it back towards Bailey Smith. Running through right half back. Tries to kick it down the line. It's looking right and not staying in. Over the boundary line it goes. Free kick to the power right in front of the benches. True centre wing. They're down by 25.
Powell Pepper to take the free kick. Down the line he goes. Caleb Daniel flew at the front for the Dogs. Then he received a hand pass. A 1-2 it turned out with Cordy. Then Cordy went wide to Dale and then to Bailey Smith, and then free kick, was it? Or he's just able to back out of there anyway and went centrally to Bailey Dale. He turned it over. Burne-Jones for Port Adelaide. Diagonally across the square now to Georgiades. They're at right half forward. Lead up there from Robbie Gray, and Robbie Gray holds and waits, and he's got a runner outside him, and Hartlett bangs from 55 wide out. Makes no difference. What a kick. Long and strong from Hamish Hartlett. And that certainly lifted Port Adelaide first of the second quarter. Although they did kick the first goal of the match and then were swamped after that. Port Adelaide 3-1-19. The Dogs 6-2-38 after 2 minutes of the second term.
Well, I mean, it was a nice goal. I mean, it wasn't a great build-up by Port Adelaide, but, you know, once again, if you look inside their forward 50, Port Adelaide, it was all Bulldogs. So if they're thinking, Port Adelaide, that they're going to continually think that Hamish Hartlett or the backline are going to kick goals from outside 50 for the rest of the night in terms of method inside. That's not going to get it done. So they had their opportunity there. Bulldogs got back really quickly and just blocked up the forward 50. Great finish by Hamish, no doubt about that, but still their method inside forward 50, still a bit of an issue for mine so far.
Scott Camporelli, Gavin Wanganeen, your experts. And the injury news for the Western Bulldogs. Easton Wood is out with a hamstring. In the middle, Wines soccers it off the turf for the Power. Heads to centre half forward. Cutting it off, Crozier did the same, but straight to the chest of Boak. Chips it up towards right half forward. Bouncing for Wines, who left it, expecting it to come back to him. It bounced the wrong way and over the boundary line to be tossed back in front of the scoreboard pocket.
Yeah, it's a good point there, Scotty. They can't be relying on, their guys to kick beautiful goals, bombs outside 50. They've got to be putting the opposition backs to the sword a bit more.
Laddams out of the ruck down to Boak. He was swamped straight away. Umpire said there was an in the back against... No, it'll go to Liberatore. No. I thought it was going to Boak. Liberatore, the tackler. So Boak will receive it right half forward. Out on the eastern side. Takes his time now. Delivers a low ball looking for Marshall. It goes over the top of him and Crozier picks it up, hand passes it back. Keith clears it away. Was it 15? No. Burne-Jones forced to play on. 1-2 with Wines. Burne-Jones outside 50. Goes right across the ground. And he finds Riley Bonner, who takes the mark 55 from goal. Quickly plays on. Right to the top of the goal square. Georgiades had hands on the ball. Robbie Gray at the front tackled. Umpire says, I'll have it.
Gee, I want to see Gray get up here. Yeah, he's looking okay. He got slung pretty hard into the turf then. His head hit it pretty hard, but he's gotten straight back up. Dixon takes it out of the ruck contest, shrugs a couple of tackles. Hand pass was looking for Rosie. He left it behind for Marshall. Does the unselfish thing and kicks across the goal face. Finds Carl Amon 45 from goal, tight angle to the left.
Well, better by Port. Obviously, a couple of centre clearances, got some field position. Not pretty, though. I thought Georgiades had his hands on that one there. He spilled it. That's two that he spilled tonight. But good composure there, just to find Amon.
A career best season for Carl Amon. Looks to add a goal to his standings tonight. Very, very slick kick. That's home for the Power, and they've got two straight to start the second quarter. And it's game on once again at the Adelaide Oval. A 13-point margin now. The Western Bulldogs 6-2-38. Port Adelaide 4-1-25. 5-minute mark of the second quarter on Grandstand AFL.
Gee, Amon's probably Port Adelaide's most improved player over the last 2 years, and it was a nice finish for goal there. I'd like to actually see some of the younger brigade from Port, like Marshall and Georgiades, to start, and Farrell, to start hitting the scoreboard, or at least laying tackles, just getting in the play and force the Bulldogs to actually start playing their defensive role.
And no surprise, we spoke about winning possession and inside and out. Port Adelaide in front, in winning contested possession, winning clearance, and obviously getting a result on the scoreboard this quarter so far.
In that opening quarter, it was 114 possessions for the Dogs to 69 for Port. They'd come out of the middle, though, again, Port Adelaide. Boak just hand pass forward in hope he got to Motlop, and then Motlop went wide to the left foot of Farrell. Farrell inside 50, 25 from goal, off hands. Fantasia Rhodes. Fantasia goals.
Just goes to show, doesn't it, when you win your share of clearances, especially from the centre square, and you move the ball into your forward 50, you put the Bulldogs' backs to the sword. They start getting a bit jittery and panicky, and Port forwards are able to get their hands on the footy and make the most of it. That's how they're going to get themselves back into the game.
Second goal for Fantasia. Port Adelaide 5-1-31, trail the Dogs 6-2-38 after 7 minutes.
Yeah, and just to reiterate that point, Gav, what happens is you get the only time on the ground where you get 6v6 ahead of the ball. And even in that instance there, it was actually 5v5 on the basis of what happened after the initial stoppage. So really important by Port. It's a momentum. Footy's a game of momentum, and they're actually got themselves back in the game. Well done, Port Adelaide.
7-point contest here at the Adelaide Oval. Over at the Docklands, the Giants by 15 over Richmond at the moment. Sweet taps it down for the Dogs. Ricochets off a couple of boots. Laddams can't gather it against Sweet. May have been held in the process or done the holding. or the holding, I should say. Sweet receives the free kick for the Dogs, hands it off to Daniel. Jure now running through the western side, gets it to Bailey Smith, heading to the right forward pocket. Aaliyah cuts it off, still in play though in the right forward pocket. Hartlett gathers and is gang tackled over the line to be tossed back in. Tight ankle in the right forward pocket. Sorry, Campo. Failing English didn't seem to impress you very much.
Oh, you give me something every week, Aaron. I love it. I love it.
Just keeping it real, Aaron. That's all.
25 around from the goal face. Ball back into play. Off the ruckman's hands and towards the top of the 50. It comes back to Bruce, and he gave a hand pass wide, and he got one back from McRae, and off his non-preferred right foot, he hits the behind post from 35 metres, and that's out on the full from his kick. So Hamish Hartlett will receive the free kick beside the behind post in the left back pocket for Port.
So Hartlett looks to move it to the western side. To a contest, Dixon will rise. Got a hand to it. Trying to tap it down to Bonner. Worked out well for him in the end. Keeps it in play inside the boundary line. A bouncing kick down the field through the western side. Cut off by the Dogs. Williams may have been legged in the tackle. Got a hand pass away. Now Sweet inside the boundary line. Flicks it over his head towards Williams. The Power are just applying so much pressure here. They hold up Bailey Williams and get the turnover. Marshall flicks a hand pass out to Mollop, who smartly taps it to Drew. Central kick was dangerous. Still taken very cleanly though by Farrell. Doesn't waste any time. Pops it into open space. Motlop can run onto it. In the 50s, 45 from goal. Spins out of 2 tackles. Tries to centre his kick and does so well. A flat one in towards Willem Drew. Slides in and takes it. 40 from goal. 45-degree angle to the right.
Well, it's really simple. Port Adelaide are just winning contests now. Footy is actually a simple game, and you can see in the first quarter compared to the second quarter, the Bulldogs are all over them in all facets of the game, particularly in the contest. If you win one-on-one contests and you win the ball, particularly inside, and you get it to the outside, Port now have actually given it back to the Dogs on the flip side. Great use by Motlop just to find Drew inside 50.
A massive moment in the context of the game. Willem Drew sends it towards home. It's left, but it's snuck just in. Port Adelaide have 4 unanswered goals. And we're down to a 1-point game at the Adelaide Oval. The Western Bulldogs 6-2-38. Port Adelaide 6-1-37. Game on. 10-minute mark of the second quarter on Grandstand AFL.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there, Campo. It's a bit of a return serve from Port back to the Bulldogs, isn't it? And just the ability, the pressure barometer has actually gone up for Port as well. They're tackling their pressures, forcing Bulldogs into making mistakes. And Port are winning their fair share of clearances. Their confidence is going up. And when they get at the forward line like that, and you've got smart players like Motlop just doing that nice little lead up to Drew, well, you know, things are turning for Port now, which is great. Game on.
And scoreboard pressure is important. To kick 4 straight, that's actually really put the Bulldogs, and now they're asking them a question.
Ball down in the middle again. Laddams with the tap. Might be a free kick against Drew. No, it comes out to Port Adelaide. It comes to Laddams in the end. Down to half forward, he finds Marshall. He's at left half forward. Swings in on the right foot, having taken the mark. And centre 25 from goal over the back. Daniel was there for the Dogs. Then he just tapped it out, and it came to Wines. He had to release the ball, picked up by Farrell, and he's dragged down right at the top of the goal square. Port Adelaide, well, they're attacking hard in this second term.
So reset in front of the goals. Keith tries to take it out of the ruck against Dixon. Flicked out by Fantasia to Wines, who curls it from 10 out. Port Adelaide are in front. Ollie Wines standing up with the Power's 7th goal and his first for the evening. Port Adelaide 7-1-43, now up by 5 points over the Western Bulldogs, 6-2-38. 12-minute mark of the second quarter. The Power have 5 straight goals.
Well, it's been an unbelievable turnaround. But we keep saying it, it's based on field position and putting the Doggies defenders under pressure. We said in the pre-match, if they could actually get those guys under pressure, they're not a great defensive back 6 collectively versus Port. I think Port's back 6 are actually better on paper. But now they've lost Eastonwood. They've lost one of their key defenders. So now Keith and these guys are now batting out of their weight division, and particularly through the midfield. Bontempelli's only had 1. McRae's only had 1 possession. Liberatore's only had 1 versus Wines and Boak. They're starting to get the game on their terms now through the middle of the ground.
inside 50s, 5-4 only in this quarter, but Port Adelaide obviously getting all the goals, and they'll go forward again through Laddams. Wasn't the greatest of kick from the ruckman, but at least he got it forward. Picked up by Georgiades, taken to ground, and the umpires picked up high fend off. And so Georgiades gives it to DeRay. So a chance for the Dogs just to steady a bit, just to make a comparison. 5-4 forward 50 entries in the quarter, 21-8 in favour of the Dogs in the first quarter.
DeRay goes long down the western side. Sweet tapped it straight to Drew for the power. Hands it to Wines, then Powell Pepper, 60 from goal. He slips, a worm burner that's cut off by DeRay. Hands it out to Crozier. Then Daniel, and finally out of the 50 they go to Lipinski. Gets boot to ball on the western side, or eastern side rather. Bailey Smith shrugs off Darcy Byrne-Jones. Hands it off to Bontempelli, kicks around the body. Norton's there, but doesn't have the numbers with him. May have copped a high elbow to Clury as well, who's still down on the ground. The Power still get the clearance throw through Bergman, who heads up to right half forward.
Standing in the back, well, it looked like he got it. Umpire thought so too. DeRay was there. I think he took it on the chest with a little bit of a bobble. A lot of blood coming out of the mouth of Clury from that incident just a moment ago that Aaron spoke of. So the ball goes inside with a short kick to Caleb Daniel for the Dogs. So he backs up, takes his time, usually makes good decisions, decides to go and stay on that eastern side. Jonas knocks the ball down from the pack, and Waitman picks it up immediately, swamps the crowd, which is very much in the game after being out of the game in the opening term. The Port Adelaide crowd is well up and about, as are the players. We get a ruck contest.
Yeah, Clury took a lot of time to start heading towards the bench.
Not a great time to come off, Aaron.
May have actually lost a tooth. Meanwhile, the Dogs, you're right, Campo. Free kick on the eastern side. If they hurry here, they can head forward, and Port Adelaide will be down a man. Hartlett's waiting to come on, and the Dogs won't take advantage of this. Sweets waiting forever on centre wing to decide to move the ball. Finally chips it down the line. Nice kick. We'll find Lipinski just short of left half forward. Hartlett has burst towards the 50 to try and help. That's where the Dogs will head. Into the left forward pocket. Jonas will cut it off. Bruce can't keep it in play. Boundary throw-in to come 35 from goal to Josh Money on the boundary.
Yeah, plenty of claret coming from Clury's mouth, as you mentioned, and hopefully he hasn't lost a tooth after bumping into the back of Mitch Hannon's head, because he revealed during the week he'd actually lost one of his teeth a few years ago after a spa that was too hot, and he came out and passed out and lost a tooth.
And how do you do that? Oh, yeah. Okay, if you fall down. Port Adelaide clear their defensive area through Laddams out of the ruck contest. It's offhand straight away. Caleb Daniel and Crozier work it. Crozier finally gets a kick sort of to McRae. He got pushed after he kicked it. It'll be a free kick. Will it be down the ground? Yes, it is. So McRae just outside attacking 50 at left half forward. Goes into the pocket with his kick. Aaliyah has a go at it, and the umpire says, hang on. The off control umpire has given a free kick to Bontempelli for a push. So
it was against Bergman, I think. Bergman just pushed him under the contest.
So Bontempelli will have a look. All we're seeing is late in the contest, and Aaliyah jumping up with the ball in terms of a replay. So Bontempelli, as you can hear, crowd, is very much Port orientated. Bontempelli comes in from 25, and despite the angle, kicks the goal, turns back to the crowd and gives them a little bit. Second for Bontempelli, 16 minutes gone in the second term. The Dogs are back in front by a point, 7-2-44. Port Adelaide, 7-1-43. What a contest, and there's a little bit of afters going on as well.
Yeah, geez, there's not much in that on the replay. It was sort of two actions, but geez, Gav, that's...
Is that umpire, is he a Doggy supporter or not?
I'm not sure, but that's really tough.
So the Western Bulldogs up by a point now after Port Adelaide hit the lead. 7-2-44 plays 7-1-43.
Put a little bit of mayo on that, Bont, but when you're the best player in the competition, sometimes it goes your way.
Yep, definitely.
In the middle on the reset, Dixon tapped it straight to Tom Liberatore. Tackled as he got boot to ball, didn't go too far. Coming in from the wing, Rock Smith tried to gather for the Dogs. Dixon just stripped him of it. Hand pass back to Boak, who can kick out to the eastern side. Bonner's alone there, takes the mark. Short kick down the line to Powell Pepper, short of centre wing. Over at the Docklands, the Giants leading Richmond by 21 at half-time. Powell Pepper heads up to right half forward now. Dixon again rising through his hands. It falls into the 50. Fantasia got a boot onto it, but the Dogs have numbers. Smith receives a hand pass and is brought to ground by a couple. Treloar the same as well. One of them may have been high, actually. Umpire doesn't care. Ball up to come inside the 50. 45 from the Power goal, straight in front.
But Treloar ducked his head, and that's why the umpire called play on in that instance. Ruck contest, ball comes to ground. Dixon trying to ferret it out. Dogs in there as well. Farrell makes a tackle for Port Adelaide, and the ball stays just inside the attacking 50 for Port Adelaide. Ken Hinkley looking contemplative in the coach's box. Bruce knocks it down for the Dogs and just can't get it out of there, and now he's been taken high, has he? Or has the umpire spotted a free kick to Port Adelaide? No, there's the signal, I think, was there was a throw in there from the base of the pack. Bruce was punished for it, and as a result, Port Adelaide through Powell Pepper will get a shot at goal, basically straight in front from about 45 out, quickly down to Josh Money.
Had a very clear view of that one. Adam Treloar absolutely tossed that ball, so I think that's the correct decision.
So it's like at the base of a ruck in rugby union, and he's just smuggled it out. So if you can get that picture in your head. Here comes Powell Pepper, and just a metre inside the 50, and he makes no mistake. Port up and about and in front again. Seesawing contest now. Port Adelaide 8-1-49. The Western Bulldogs 7-2-44 after 19 minutes of the second term. Grandstand AFL.
I love seeing him back, Gav. I from afar, I thought he was really important last year. Obviously had some off-field stuff that he needed to sort out, but I think he's a real barometer for this group. Yep. He adds, he takes some pressure off Wines and Boak, and he adds some real hardness and toughness around the ball. His second efforts to want to tackle, and actually, so he probably doesn't get the huge numbers that the other guys do, but I just think he's a really important player for Port's premiership tilt this year, and a great finish for him, and that's something he needs to keep adding to his game.
Yeah, definitely, and he's missed 4 or 5 games, so he's coming back, building, his form and fitness, so he'll only get better, but definitely his hardness is very important. How about the likes of Volley and etc.
The Power by 5. Bruce taps it to himself in the ruck contest, wrapped up by Boak. No clearance to come. Ball up very shortly. Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you alongside Gavin Wanganeen and Scott Camporelli. Marty Frederick on the boundary line warming up. That may not be good news for Tom Cleary. The Western Bulldogs already losing Easton Wood to a hamstring. Hayden Crozier, their sub, is on. In the middle, Boak got a half volley towards right half forward for the Power. Motlop juggled it but couldn't take it. Daniel picks it up for the Dogs. Hands it to Liberatore, who sends it down the eastern wing. Norton leading out, cut off a little bit by Scott. Aaliyah applying some pressure as well. Hartlett dives onto the ball, gathers and gets a boot to it. Heads up to right half forward. Gray just didn't get the lead out. Bailey Williams did in the end. Sliding in takes the mark for the Western Bulldogs inside the boundary line.
Williams playing his 65th game, just dodges around. Gray on the mark, goes long with the kick off a couple of hands, and then Aaliyah got somewhat of a kick wide, only went about 5 metres. Eventually it's taken across the boundary line, and we'll get a throw in, and there's a little bit of push and shove and some more afters, and some more Port fans out there on the eastern side on their feet pointing fingers. What a shock. They are up and about, there's no doubt about that, the fans.
Port by 5 though, so they can't be too angry at the moment.
Oh, they're always angry.
Laddams taps it down. The Dogs have numbers at the fall. The ball, McNeil arches the back, heads into 50, straight to Ryan Burton, who cuts it off for the Power. Doesn't waste any time. Sends it to the centre square to the open Laddams. He'll mark. Doesn't hurry it on. Finally called to play on. He'll set it up to centre wing on the eastern side. Bonner will take it ahead of McNeil. This time he races to kick it on. Down to Sam Powell-Pepper at right half forward. Curls around into the pocket. Nice kick. Tightest of angles to Fantasia. Wants to move it centrally towards Marshall. Just beat him. Georgiades at the fall as well. Farrell comes to assist. Hands it inbound but turns it straight over. Duray for the Dogs. Gets it out of the 50.
Great little balk, and then he went to his left foot and he got it to Norton. who's a long way from centre half forward where he'd normally be stationed, but he took the chest mark away from Jonas and took his time. Not many options. He's still puzzled, so he just goes high and long down the line. Hannon made a contest for the Dogs, and Aaliyah made sure it was over the line. So just behind centre wing for the Western Bulldogs on this broadcast side of the ground. We'll get a throw in. Margin is 5 points in favour of Port Adelaide.
And that's after the Western Bulldogs led by 25 at quarter time. So it's been a big turn for the Power. Toss back in, Sweet tapped it down. Liberatore threw it on the boot to McRae. Took it on the logo centre wing. Kicked into the square. McNeil can gather off the bounce. Pops it into the 50. Norton crunched Burton in the contest. Spilled out towards Amon for the Power. Heads up to the western side. Laddams will take it unopposed, just short of centre wing. The Power getting out of trouble there. The Dogs look like they had a nice clean inside 50. So Laddams heads up towards left half forward for the Power. Marshall late to the ball, got a fist to it, knocked it down to Mollop. Hands it to Powell Pepper, disguise it into the 50 with a torpedo that's out on the full. Free kick to come to the Western Bulldogs, who are down by 5.
Well, that last inside 50, Kane Farrell should go down and buy Ryan Burton an ice-cold Coke after that, because he would have got his backside kicked.
Dogs through Williams. He went inboard to McRae and then received a hand pass, fell over, got up, sent it down towards centre wing. Off hands it came to Powell Pepper, off to Bonner, scrubs the ball forward as best he can. Somehow it finds its way to the top of the 50. On the ground was Keith, couldn't get it out. Rosie stood up though, socketed it forward. Now he picks it up. Quick hand pass off to Motlop, works a bit of magic. Outside of the boot, goes for the goal and sends it right across the other side. He was in the left forward pocket, off the outside of his boot towards the goals. There's a conference going on now. The signal was out on the full, but I got a feeling one of the umpires down there thinks it may have bounced into the post, and we're going to go up for a decision from the arc.
Hit on the base of the post.
People don't like the score review enough as it is, but when you've got to do a score review for a minor score, time wasting,
well,
the definition of it.
Then again, it is a close match. Only 5 points in favour of Port Adelaide. It's been 1 point a couple of times, so I guess every point counts.
It's definitely hit the post, but
I
has
think
it crossed
hit the
line
ground first and then bounces into the post. Yeah. I tell you what, though, from Motlop's view, that had a reasonable look at it going through off the boot. It was almost there.
And it looks like it may have bounced.
That's a point.
No, I thought it actually hit the post and therefore it's out of bounds. So it's bounced. Part of the ball was still
on the line,
in front of the line, and so then it's hit the post. And so it'll be a throw in after all that, right against the post. No, he's gone for out on the full.
Okay, must have hit the post first.
Yeah, hit the post first then. In any case, Dogs have got it.
Confusion at the back end of the second quarter. Daniel tries to clear it for the Dogs. Long to left half back. There were plenty of players there, but the only person who wanted it was Bontempelli. Leads out and takes it unopposed. So he's just inside the boundary line at left half back. Called to play on, he'll send it up the eastern wing. Skies it to another contest. Aaliyah tries to get a fist to it. Norton nearly clunked it. Spills to ground. Off a few hands. Mitch Hannon pushing it forward for the Dogs. Has to wrap up Jonas in the end. Ball up will come short of left half forward for them. Down to Josh Money on the boundary.
Aaron, still no sign of Tom Clurey. He's been in the Port Adelaide rooms for a fair while now. I think the doctor just came out shaking his head. Marty Frederick is really warming up. It looks as though he's preparing to come on. So bad news for the Power.
Liberatore smuggled a hand pass out there, and then Powell Pepper came across and, well, let's just say he made the most of his chance to take McRae high. He took him down to the ground, and Liberatore didn't like it. I don't think McRae was really happy about it either, but at least he had the ball in hand. Now he's going to take the free kick against the boundary line on the eastern side. Drives it looking for Norton. Doesn't get that far. Comes off hands. Norton makes a tackle. Ball to ground. Finally found Burton. And then Norton tapped it out. Waitman's kick was smothered. Came to Georgiades. He's very deep in defence. Then off to Aaliyah by hand. They attack through the middle of the ground. It's over the top looking for Motlop, but the Dogs have numbers, and Williams will come away with a hand pass wide and then receives it back. Well done again by Caleb Daniel.
Heads out wide to Bailey Dale in front of the benches. Flat kick cut off by Aaliyah. Was looking for Waitman. Aaliyah came from the side. took the mark unopposed. He's at left half back for the Power. They're up by 5. So Aaliyah decides to head long down the wing. Daniel up against Dixon, and Daniel rising up takes the mark in front. It wasn't really a contest there, but it could have been.
I tell you, I reckon Charlie would have eaten Caleb Daniel for lunch.
He was coming in hard. Daniel took the mark though, sent it back where it came from. Aaliyah again in front, double fist, knocks it out of play. Boundary throw in to come in front of the benches. Still half-time over at the Docklands, so the Giants lead Richmond by 21 points there, 9-5-59 to 6-2-38. The major goal scorers at the moment at the major break. Hogan has 4, Dustin Martin with 2.
6 goals to 1 for the quarter. In fact, neither side has kicked it behind, and from the throw-in, Sweet gives away the free kick to Laddams for holding in the ruck contest. Laddams gets around Sweet, then goes down looking for Dixon. He collects his own man as the ball floats over the top. Crozier releases it for the Dogs. Then to Duray by hand, and then Lipinski, and then McRae. And he ducks back on the left foot and goes inboard with a really good kick. He finds Treloar. Diagonally across the square they go. Off to Rourke Smith on the logo centre wing, eastern side, inside 50. Johannesson with the chest mark. His defender, and Burton was all at sea, couldn't find him. And the kick was really good from Rourke Smith.
It was a courageous bit of play by McRae there to hit the corridor, that flat, low kick inside the corridor, which opened Port up the other way, and that's when the forwards can lead into a bit of open space and get their advantage on the Port back player.
Close to half-time, Johannesson can give his side the lead again. In he comes from inside 50, slips as he kicks the ball. No effect on the kick. It travels straight over the goal umpire's hat. And the Dogs have one back, and they're in the lead again. 8-2-50 plays Port Adelaide 8-1-49, closing in on half-time at the Adelaide Oval.
Well, they'd be disappointed, Port, with that. That was essentially an easy goal. I mean, it was, as you said, Gav, it was a great, kick by McRae to open the ground up, particularly through the corridor. Just Treloar caught Ollie Wines just asleep through the corridor, didn't think he'd pull the trigger in there, and he went there. And as you said, Burton was all at sea once that happened. Nice finish by Johansson, but Port would be disappointed with that. They probably didn't need to do too much more. They needed potentially just go into half-time. They've got themselves back in the game. That just gives the Bulldogs just a little bit of oxygen into half-time.
You don't like conceding goals with, not long to go before the half-time siren.
So the Dogs up by a point, 30-minute mark of the second quarter. Laddams tapped it down, looking for a power player, I guess, but Bailey Smith cut it off for the Dogs. Sends it into their 50. Leading out Bruce, tried to tap it off the bounce to Hannon, who's run down by Amon. Everybody stopped expecting a free kick, and it was paid. Carl Amon will receive it inside the defensive 50 for the Power. Just looking for a late one to maybe try and snatch the lead after they were down by 25 at quarter time. Amon heads up to the eastern side. Duray at the front, Dixon at the back. No one took a clean mark, knocked down and a couple of tackles, one of them illegal. Will favour Port Adelaide. Treloar getting Wines in the back. So Ollie Wines has it short of centre wing on that eastern side. And doesn't waste any time. Pops it up to right half forward. 2-on-2 there. Crozier with a nice rise. Couldn't take it. Spills to Laddams. Just threw on the boot. It was an ugly looking kick. Might have caught the wrong side of it as well. And out of bounds on the full. Free kick to the Western Bulldogs at left half back. They're up by 1.
Ruckman should handball, Aaron. Just handball the ball.
Definitely.
Adam's one of the most skilled ruckmen around. Anyway, Duray took the free kick. He went inboard to Cordy. So he's still inside defensive 50 for the Dogs. Cordy called to play on. Keeps it on that eastern side. Goes long. Bruce, middle of the pack. Ball knocked away by Wines over the boundary line.
Michael Voss this morning on SA Grandstand. It was extremely tight to choose Peter Laddams. We chose Peter based on his impact on the floor and his AFL experience.
Okay. Well, we can't argue against Vossi, I suppose.
Well, not at this stage anyway. The jury's still out. So from the throw-in, ball gets to the ground. Players diving everywhere, and one of them was a Port Adelaide player, was it? No, it's an in-the-back decision. I thought Drew had dived in and was then got pinched for keeping the ball in, but instead he gets the free kick for in the back.
Sends it into the 50. Georgiades leading out. May have been spoiled by Dixon. Spills to the Powers' advantage though. Farrell gets it back to Harlett. Runs into the 50. From 45 he'll hand it to Georgiades. They're mucking around with it, the Power, and Farrell will turn it over. Treloar into the square he goes. Nearly turns it over to Bergman. Bontempelli comes to assist. Brought to ground. Got a hand pass away, but it was too late. Free kick to go to the Power. Miles Bergman to receive it in the square. Maybe they can make amends for that previous play. Bergman, flat kick, piercing pass towards Georgiades, who takes it up against Dale. Nice mark on the paint of 50, slight angle to the left. And there's the halftime siren as well. A chance to put Port Adelaide in front heading into the major break, which is massive for them considering how bad their first quarter went. Down by 25. The Dogs had a run of 5 unanswered goals in that first quarter. Port Adelaide responded with 6 unanswered to start this second quarter, or 5 actually I should say. And 6 of the first 7. Mitch Georgiades now looking to put them in front. On the stroke of half-time, he'll have to kick from outside 50. The youngster loads up. It doesn't have a lot of power and it's looking right as well. Off hands, it may have rolled through for a minor score. We're just waiting for confirmation, but it definitely won't be a major. The umpires come together and we're not getting a score. So at the major break, it will be the Western Bulldogs hanging on to their lead that they did lose in the middle of that second quarter, but they're up by 1 point now. 8-2-50 to 8-1-49 at the major break here at the Adelaide Oval. The goal scorers at half-time for the Western Bulldogs, 2 to Bontempelli and Waitman, singles to Bruce, McNeil, Norton and Johannesson. Meanwhile, for Port Adelaide, 2 to Erasio Fantasia, singles to Pau Pepper, Hartlett, Amon, Wines, Georgiades and Willem Drew. So the Power up by 5 points at one stage, now down by 1 at half-time. Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you, your experts this evening, Gavin Wanganeen and Scott Camporelli.
Yeah, well, it's a tale of 2 quarters, I guess, wasn't it, Gav? In terms of the numbers, I mean, Port were able to flip the game on its head. They ended up winning contested possession by 11 that quarter. They out-tackled them. They got the ground ball game, which are the Bulldogs' real strength. They got that back on their terms. They won clearance, which coincided into field positions. They managed to kick 4 goals from stoppage for the quarter for Port out of the 6 that they kicked. So really important. That's a real strength of the Bulldogs, but it's been a strength of Port Adelaide for most of the year, and able to kick 2 on turnover as well. So they really flipped the game on its head, to be fair, and Port's midfield got on top.
Yep.
McRae didn't have as big an influence. Bontempelli didn't have as big an influence on the game. Bailey Smith didn't have the influence. Treloar. So these guys didn't get hold of it, but you saw Wines, you saw Boak, Amon, Burn Jones off half-back, and we saw Pau Pepper hit the scoreboard as well. So much better by Port Adelaide. Really tight game. Really interested to see what the second half brings, because you can see how important we spoke about the contest, and both teams, once they get it outside, they do move the ball really well and they have got great running power. So for me, it's who's going to win this contested possession, ground ball tackle combination in that second half is going to probably run out the winner in this.
Yeah, I think we spoke earlier about the importance of the midfield contest. I mean, that's where it's won or lost. Well, there's proof, in contrast from the first quarter to second quarter, where Port Adelaide dominated in the second quarter. The Doggies smashed Port in that first quarter, and if you can't get your hands on the footy, well, you're not going to be able to get the ball into the areas that you need to get to the ball to in your forward area with enough speed, or just in terms of numbers. Port were able to win the clearances, get their hands on the footy. Their midfield dominated possession, so they were able to get much more ball in their forward 50. Their forwards get their confidence up. The ball's coming into the right spots. There's crumbs for the little forwards. There's contests, and the Doggies' backs are under the pump, and that's what footy's all about. You've got to get the ball into the forward area quick enough in dangerous areas so your forwards have a chance. If they don't get a chance, you're not going to have a chance to kick a winning score, are you?
Gavin Wanganeen, Scott Camporelli, your experts this evening here at the Adelaide Oval. There is some injury news as well for both sides. So Easton Wood is out of the game. He was subbed out at quarter time for Hayden Crozier with a hamstring injury. Meanwhile, for Port Adelaide, it looks like Tom Cleary may be subbed out of the game for Martin Frederick, who did spend the majority of that quarter warming up after a clash where Cleary ran into the back of Crozier and had a pretty busted up mouth. So we'll wait and see if he returns after half time, but it could mean that both teams will have to activate their medical sub by the major break. The Western Bulldogs up by a point, 8-250 to 8-149. Plenty coming up shortly on Grandstand AFL. We'll give you scores from around the country, and you can get in touch with us as well. You can ask a question of the experts to let us know your opinion about this game, about any of the games you've seen today. 0467 922 891. That's 0467 922 891 to get in touch with the team. But at the moment, it is the Western Bulldogs leading by a point at the Adelaide Oval on ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital. It's time to take the latest from the ABC Newsroom.
ABC News with Satyam Weinstein. The federal government's controversial ban on travel from India has lifted, with 80 people from the COVID-ravaged nation travelling from New Delhi to Darwin. Here's Jade Toomey.
The Northern Territory has been hosting repatriated Australians from India for months, but this flight is the first to arrive in Howard Springs since the federal government's controversial travel ban was lifted at midnight. The flight was scheduled to carry 150 passengers, but only 80 were on board after 70 people tested positive to COVID or were deemed close contacts. They'll spend 14 nights in quarantine at the Howard Springs facility near Darwin, with anyone who tests positive to be treated in an isolated red zone. Plans for further repatriation flights from India will be reviewed if the number of positive cases from today's flight nears 50.
The number of COVID-19 vaccine doses administered worldwide has passed 1.4 billion. India's administered nearly 180 million doses as it deals with well over 300,000 new cases a day and around 4,000 deaths. The Indian government's warning the virus is now spreading rapidly in rural areas after ravaging the cities. The world's now recorded more than 160 million cases of the virus since the start of the pandemic and well over 3.3 million deaths. Israeli planes have renewed airstrikes in Gaza, and Hamas militants have responded by firing rockets into Israel. Palestinian medical officials say at least 132 people have been killed in Gaza since Monday and 950 others wounded. Israeli authorities say among 8 dead in Israel are a soldier patrolling the Gaza border and 6 civilians. Emergency teams are being sent to India's western coastal states as they brace for the first cyclone of the year. Meteorologists fear it may intensify, with the cyclone already bringing heavy rain, prompting concerns about flooding and landslides. Evacuations are underway in low-lying areas. Indian authorities are already struggling with a record surge in coronavirus infections and deaths. Chinese media says a tornado struck the central city of Wuhan, killing 6 people. The reports say more than 200 were injured and 27 houses destroyed, while another tornado has killed at least 1 person in China's east. Meanwhile, China's taken a major leap in space, becoming only the second country to land a rover on Mars. Here's Bill Birtles.
China's state media declared the successful soft landing on Mars, capping an historic triple leap for China's space program. In just one mission, China has managed to orbit Mars, land on Mars, and deploy a 6-wheeled robot called Zhurong on the surface. As the spacecraft made the notoriously risky descent, a longer than expected transmission delay kept scientists on the ground nervously waiting. China's government says the rover will now spend 90 days taking samples and exploring the Martian surface. Bill Birtles, ABC News.
US President Joe Biden's continuing to roll back executive orders issued by his predecessor, Donald Trump. They include a proclamation that sought to bar US entry to immigrants lacking medical insurance. Others Mr. Biden's overturning, including Mr. Trump's orders on penalizing attacks on monuments and deriding online censorship. A joint rescue effort involving the Australian Maritime Safety Authority and the Australian Defence Force is underway off the coast of WA. The authority says it's received distress calls from an Indonesian fishing boat 1,200 kilometres off the coast of Perth. An AMSA Challenger jet was used to drop 2 life rafts to the vessel. Australian authorities don't believe it's a people smuggling boat. 3 ADF jets have been involved in the operation, and the frigate HMAS Anzac's expected to arrive in the area this evening. Community groups opposing the sale of assets by Central Coast Council in New South Wales. Reserves, car parks, community halls are among the dozens of public assets earmarked for sale to recoup millions of dollars in debt. Jackie Pearson from the Community Environmental Network says there will be protests against the sale this weekend.
Unfortunately, rather than sell off the big properties that are likely to recoup more of the money, they've gone through and looked for lazy assets.
Australia's world number 1 tennis player Ashley Barty has missed the chance to advance to the semi-finals of the Italian Open after being forced to retire from her match against American teenager Coco Gauff. Barty has been in fine form on clay heading into the French Open, was leading the quarter-final 6-4, 2-1 when she pulled out with a right arm injury. ABC News.
New from ABC Books, Lapsed by Monica Dux. One woman's hilarious attempt to escape her Catholic upbringing. Jane Caro calls it enlightening, forensic and laugh-out-loud funny. Benjamin Law praises its intellectual rigour and humane tenderness. And Sean McAuliffe says it's a frank, funny and heartfelt exorcism. Lapsed by Monica Dux. Book and audiobook available in bookshops and online.
The best of Grandstand podcasts are on offer right now. Dive deep behind the scenes of world sport with shows like the Phil Davis podcast. Listen to the Outer Sanctum team talk footy, but not as you've heard it before. Or pick through the burning issues of the A-League, W-League, Socceroos and Matildas with the Grandstand Football Pod. Visit ABC Sport Online, wherever you get your favourite podcasts, and the ABC Listen app.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
Robbie Gray holds and waits, and he's got a runner outside him, and Hartlett bangs from 55 wide out. Makes no difference. What a kick. Long and strong from Hamish Hartlett, and that certainly lifted Port Adelaide.
Hand pass was looking for Rosie. He left it behind for Marshall. Does the unselfish thing and kicks across the goal face. Finds Carl Amon 45 from goal, tight angle to the left. A career best season for Carl Amon. Looks to add a goal to his standings tonight. Very, very slick kick.
Motlop went wide to the left foot of Farrell. Farrell inside 50, 25 from goal, off hands. Fantasia Rhodes. Fantasia goals.
A massive moment in the context of the game. Willem Drew sends it towards home. It's left, but it's snuck just in. Port Adelaide have 4 unanswered goals. And we're down to a 1-point game at the Adelaide Oval. Keith tries to take it out of the ruck against Dixon. Flipped out by Fantasia to Wines, who curls it from 10 out. Port Adelaide are in front.
Close to half-time, Johannesson can give his side the lead again. In he comes. From inside 50, slips as he kicks the ball. No effect on the kick. It travels straight over the goal umpire's hat, and the Dogs have one back and they're in the lead again.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
After a fairly one-sided opening quarter, we've got a game on our hands at the Adelaide Oval. The Western Bulldogs kicked 5 unanswered in the first quarter to lead by 25. Port Adelaide doing the same, taking the lead by 5 points at 1 point after 5 unanswered goals. And unfortunately for them, the Western Bulldogs did bounce back late. Jason Johannesson putting them in front by a solitary point at the major break, but certainly living up to the billing now. It's third, hosting second in what is going to be a blockbuster finish here at the Adelaide Oval in the second half. Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you, your experts this evening. Brownlow medalist Gavin Wanganeen, Carlton Premiership player Scott Camporelli, and Josh Money on the boundary as well. Some scores from around the country. So there is another game going on at the moment, round 9. The Richmond hosting the Giants at Docklands, and it's GWS who are currently comfortably on top. A 22-point lead over the Tigers early stages of the third, 9-7-61 to 6-3-39. At the moment, Jesse Hogan has 4 goals, Dustin Martin with 2. The leading possession getters there, Jacob Hopper and Tim Taranto with 24. Josh Kelly has 21, Tom Green with 20, and Dustin Martin has added 18 touches to his 2 goals. Earlier today, your Saturday afternoon of football started with Sydney defeating Collingwood by 30 points. The Pies actually started quite hot and then completely fell apart after quarter time. It was 9-1 after the first break, and Sydney won by 30 points. North Melbourne had their first win of the season, defeating Hawthorn in Launceston by 7 points. The Hawks up by 32 points at one stage in the second quarter, but North Melbourne winning by 7 in the end, and that's their first win of the season. So congratulations to North Melbourne fans. The Q Clash over at the Gabba, the Lions defeated, that was at Carrara rather, the Lions defeated the Suns by 73 points, a massive result there in the Q Clash, and exactly what we really expected on paper. The Lions continue to surge to a top 4 spot. Meanwhile, the Suns struggling without Matt Rao, losing by 73 points. We had a state game here as well at the Adelaide Oval before tonight's contest. South Australia defeating WA by 53 points, 130-77. The Foss Williams medalist went to Matthew Broadbent with 29 touches for South Australia. Meanwhile, the Simpson medalist for WA went to Jai Bolton with 29 touches for them in a losing effort. So South Australia defeating WA by 53 points. In the NRL, earlier today, the Raiders defeated the Bulldogs by 2. The Rabbitohs defeated the Sharks by 10. And at the moment, it is the Roosters leading the Cowboys 18-16 in the second half. In the A-League, 2 games today, Sydney FC defeated Western United 1-0, so that keeps them in the hunt for the Premier's plate. Still a fair bit behind of Melbourne City now by 9 points. And also at the moment, it's just hit full time, so Central Coast Mariners have defeated the Newcastle Jets 1-0. So the Central Coast Mariners sitting 4th, and the Newcastle Jets down at the bottom of the A-League table. So Sydney FC and the Mariners winners so far today in the A-League. In the Super Netball, Collingwood had their first win of the season, defeating the Adelaide Thunderbirds by 4 points, 60-56. And the West Coast Fever continue on their winning ways despite the fact that they've had that salary cap penalty. They now have broken even. 69-54, they defeated the Sunshine Coast Lightning in the Super Netball. And that is all the scores around the country at the moment. Here at the Adelaide Oval, it is the Western Bulldogs leading Port Adelaide by 1 point, 8-250-8-149. Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you, as I touched on, with Scott Camperelli and Gavin Wanganeen. The text line, if you'd like to get in touch tonight, 0467 922 891. Dean's done just that and says the Dogs got a little too cute at the beginning of the second quarter, and it has cost them big time. Do you both agree with that call, that maybe the Dogs took the foot off the gas a little bit?
Well, I don't. I don't think that the Bulldogs took their foot off the gas. I just thought that Port Adelaide actually upped the level as to what the Bulldogs gave to them in the first quarter. So I don't think the Bulldogs went out intentionally just to say, oh, well, this is going to be an easy night for us, because that's never going to be the case if you're a top 4 team playing another top 4 team. So I just thought that Port Adelaide responded in the right manner, clearly, and got it back on what they are very good at. And Ken would have well and truly thrown the challenge to them at half-time around, this is a pretty clear-cut game as to what it is. We got pants pulled down in the first quarter in and around the contest, which resulted in poor field position and obviously bad inside 50s and put their defenders under serious pressure. Then it was roles reversed in the second quarter. And for me, and we said earlier in the call, guys, is I don't think that the Bulldogs defenders can handle Port's forwards if they can get the supply, and we saw that in that second quarter. So to kick 6 goals against the number 1 defensive team in the competition, being the Bulldogs, says a fair bit about the firepower and what they need to do, Port Adelaide. So I thought that they got on top through the midfield. I thought they were outstanding, particularly through there. They played the game in their front half. Yeah, the Bulldogs had some inside 50s, but they weren't clean entries like they were in the first half, and they were better defensively, Port Adelaide. So for me, it's really clear around who can stay on top in and around the contest, and it'll be a momentum game. You're not going to win clear contested possession the whole game. It's going to be an arm wrestle, and that's what both teams will be looking for.
And Gav, some concerns now. So both medical subs have been activated for the Western Bulldogs. Easton Wood is out with a hamstring. Hayden Crozier is in, so that's a like-for-like replacement. Unfortunately for Port Adelaide, Tom Cleary hasn't returned from the room. So whatever their head clash was with Hayden Crozier that caused the busted lip, he's been subbed out of the game. Marty Frederick is in, and that isn't really a like-for-like replacement. You're losing one of your key backmen for a running half back. That could prove a problem for the Power in the second half.
Yeah, it could, depending on, who gets, what sort of ball's coming down is the forward line. Port would obviously need to be able to control the midfield to, build on their second quarter performance. So, but, it's a night game. Young Frederick, he's full of speed and enthusiasm. It might be an advantage if they can get the ball to him and he can show some really exciting enthusiasm and, be that running player that could actually hurt the Bullies.
Do you reckon it is interesting? I'll ask a question, Aaron. I don't know whether we can find out whether Cleary's been subbed out based on his mouth, or is he concussion and then the mouth was a side issue to that, because that's really important, because if he gets subbed out through concussion, he's out for 12 days, so he's going to miss the next week at least from that perspective. So really important player, Cleary.
Don't know if it's a worry, is it? They're only playing Collingwood next week.
Neil, you are trying to get the texts in.
We'll get our boundary rider, Josh Money, to check in with the power camp and see what the official wording is there for Tom Cleary, who hasn't returned. And Martin Frederick, the medical sub for them, is now on the field. Some of the key stats at half-time. So the Western Bulldogs lead disposals 194 to 159. The inside 50s, the Dogs up 32 to 22, and they're leading disposal efficiency as well, 78 to 74, but their efficiency inside 50 a slight problem. Port Adelaide leading that 50 to 44. The free kick count favours the Power by 1. They also lead the hit-outs by 5, and the Dogs lead the clearances by 6. The second half on Grandstand AFL underway. The Western Bulldogs lead by 1.
Ball down, and Adams with the first tap down in the direction of Boak, who is manhandled. He gets holding the man decision, kicks it straight away, high inside forward 50. Ball comes to ground. It's hand passed off to Powell Pepper. He rolls it towards goal, bounces in the square, and takes a right-hand turn for the minor score.
Shane Warne would have been wrapped with that.
Josh Money on the boundary.
Crossy, Port Adelaide are telling me it isn't a concussion, it's a jaw issue for Tom Cleary. So potentially still available next week, depending on the severity, but won't take any further part.
Well, probably won't be able to talk either if they decide to pick him if it's a jaw problem, but unfortunately for Tom Cleary, another injury for the Power. The Western Bulldogs have it at left half back. Crozier sends it up the western side to a contest. At the front, Bontempelli Rose couldn't take it cleanly, and off hands it'll roll out over the benches. So Easton Wood subbed out for the Dogs. Tom Cleary out for the Power. The medical subs, Crozier and Frederick, have been activated. And we're all square at the moment. 8-2-50 apiece to start this third quarter. Tossed in, both rucks went to ground. Free kick will go for a hold, and it's going to go the Western Bulldogs' way. Laddams, the offender, Sweet, the recipient, hands it off to the running McRae. Bursting alongside him, he'll go into the 50 to Bruce, who may have been nudged out of it by Aaliyah. Off hands, it spills central. Johannesson does well to tap it to himself. Runs out of the 50. Hand pass defensively to Cordy, who lowers the eyes looking for Waitman, but his kick was just a little too high for him. Jonas slides in and takes it for the Power.
Drops it in short to Wines, just outside defensive 50. Wines has got one over the top, and he decides instead, that was an interesting decision. He had aim on clear over the top, but he went wide to Farrell. Eventually it finds its way to Amon, but this time now he's only some 5 or 6 metres from the boundary line. He goes down the line, again with a little chip pass. Wines meets it, takes the mark, round on the right foot, down to half forward. Comes off Duray, forward. Bailey Smith picks it up. Down the line he goes, and it's 2 grabs from Waitman this time. The second was over the boundary line, and we'll get a throw in at right half forward for the Dogs.
I'd like to see Connor Rosie perhaps come up to the midfield and get in the game. He's only had 2 possessions, same as Robbie Gray. Maybe just come up and sort of spit forward out of that stoppage just to give something different for the Bulldogs and see if they can free themselves up.
Another free kick in the ruck contest. The umpire officially originally signalled to Port Adelaide, but has turned it over. So Jordan Sweet now has it on the eastern side. Sends it into the 50 for the Bulldogs. A pack awaits in the scoreboard pocket. Jonas rising from the side, fists it over the boundary line to be tossed back in. So we're inside the Bulldogs attacking 50, about 20 from goal in that right forward pocket. The only score so far this term, a minus score to the Power, which levelled things up at 8-2-50 apiece. Off the ruck contest, Norton busting through, was caught in a dangerous tackle, driven into the turf, and the umpire definitely saw it that way. Free kick to Aaron Norton against Tom Jonas. He's driven head first. Very lucky he wasn't injured in that.
He's going to be in trouble, Tommy.
He pinned one arm and brought him down. The only thing I can say that is lucky for Jonas is a lot of the penalties these days is about injury and not so much action. So he may cop just a fine for that one, but it could have been so much worse. So Aaron Norton has one for the night already, sitting at 19-16 for the year. The former pick 9 starts from the centre square and will kick from 48, has a lot of height, heading straight towards goal, and it beats the defenders on the goal line. That's a major for the Dogs. They're out by 6. 4-minute mark of the third quarter on Grandstand AFL. Your experts, Scott Camporelli and Gavin Wanganeen.
Yeah, I don't think he's got any problems with the head there. Go back and kick a nice goal. It's an important goal for the Doggies to win kick that first goal after half time, just to get a bit of momentum going, a bit of confidence back up after the second quarter.
Yeah, hard to say. I mean, once again, as you said, Aaron or Crossy, it's normally around the consequences of the actions that they can dish out the penalties, but geez, it just didn't look good. That's the thing. Like perception is part of what the AFL are trying to, I guess, out of that game. And, there's sort of that extra action there, which is probably going to come under some sort of scrutiny, but I'm glad he's okay.
Ready to go again. Dogs by 6 points. There were 4 lead changes in that second term, and the Dogs led by a point at half-time. That looked like it was high on Darcy Byrne-Jones, but they'll come away with it through Scott, the Dogs. He goes high to the goal square. Norton's gone down off that contest. In fact, it's Bruce who's gone down off that contest as the ball's rushed through for the minor score. So just waiting on Josh Bruce, very slow to get to his feet after that contest, and the umpire just holding up things.
Oh yeah, got Ryan Burton.
I don't think the umpire was showing him any sympathy. He was actually saying, you need to come back onto the mark if you're going to stand there while the defensive kick-out occurs. Poor Josh Bruce is being assisted off by the trainer now, but doesn't really want to leave. The Power clear the 50, though. Dixon will rise. It beats the pack at the fall. The ball, Rosie's there. Runs into the centre square and hands it to the open boat. Bursts to the attacking edge. Pops it into the 50. A 2-on-1 is there. Marshall could have taken it. Dropped it at the back, or has he paid the mark? He is.
Paid the mark.
The Power want to take the advantage and they won't. So it went through almost the top of his fingertips, Todd Marshall, as he rose up for that contest. Crozier came across and spoiled it out, but he's obviously held it enough to be paid a mark.
Well, that's when they've looked the most dangerous, Port, haven't they? Really coming off that half-back, other than their 5 goals from stoppage. I mean, their set-play situation's so slightly different, but they do look dangerous, Port, particularly when they run and spread, and once again, when their forwards get the Bulldogs defenders one out.
A slow start in the showdown for Marshall, but he took over shortly after that. A chance on goal here and a minor score to the right-hand side. So still waiting to open his scoring for the evening, Todd Marshall, but the Power at least reduced the deficit. 9-3-57 plays 8-3-51. 6.5 gone in the third quarter on Grandstand AFL.
Dogs go short from defence. They find Keith, who's out there on the eastern side of the ground, about 40 from goal, a couple of metres in from the boundary. Down the line he goes, and 2 wide. For those playing at home, it is a Port Adelaide home game at the Adelaide Oval, and they were very happy about that, the fans. Meanwhile, now Laddams with the ball on the logo on centre wing, drives it inside 50. Ball comes to Cordy, picked it up. Motlop has got a hold of him and won't let him go, and the umpire says you can let him go now and give me the ball.
3 unanswered goals for the Tigers at Docklands. It's now a 9-point game. The Giants up 10-8-68 to 9-5-59. So toss back up. Caleb Daniel with the clearance for the Dogs. Gets it out of the 50. Sweet may have been tunnelled out by Laddams. Spills out to Rosie. Back into the 50. He'll go for the Power. Marshall again outnumbered. Got it to ground. McRae comes in. Caught in the tackle from Pantasia. Just got boot to ball. Rolls to Duray. He'll hand it out to Rourke Smith and they can clear it to left half back. Went through the hands of Johannesson, and the Power have numbers at the fall of the ball. Byrne-Jones hands it to Aaliyah, then gets it back. Tight on the boundary line. He skies it towards the 50. Dixon's underneath it. Marshall coming across, brought it to ground. Rourke Smith wrapped up in a couple, dropped the ball. Daniel comes to assist. He can't gather. Gray somehow gets it to Drew. Hand pass to Motlop, who spilt it. Wraps up Dale. The Dogs now through Bailey Smith, gets it to McRae. Pushed as he kicked out of bounds on the full. Port Adelaide free kick short of right half forward.
Alia wanted the ball, got the ball, took his time. Inboard he goes. And Burn-Jones with the mark. Looks centrally. There's nothing really available. So he's called to play on now. Angles his kick inside centre half forward. And from behind it's knocked away towards Amon. Amon scrubs a kick forward off his left foot. Picked up by Fantasia. Takendane in a tackle. Play on. Bontempelli clears the area, or rather Crozier it was. And coming away from the contest was Hannon, got a hand pass off to Treloar, managed to slip one out looking for Williams. It was picked up with a head down there from Frederick, and he's taken down in a tackle by Bailey Williams inside the centre square, but at the front end for Port Adelaide, attacking that River Torrens end of the ground in this second half.
On the reset, down to Bailey Smith for the Dogs. Hands it back to McRae. Looked for a 1-2 with Treloar, who sold some candy and then went to the eastern side. Lipinski shrugs a tackle, gets it to Smith. Through the logo he goes and into the 50. Bruce will rise. Tried to go over the top of Alia. Crowd wanted in the back. No free kick and no mark either. Jonas mops it up, but an errant hand pass will roll over the boundary line. Will be tossed back in on the pain of 50. Nearly a mark for Josh Bruce there. He rose a little bit too early.
Jeez, that almost a free kick to Bruce. I mean, he's not even looking at the ball, Alia.
The crowd wanted something for the jump anyway in their favour, in Port Adelaide's favour, thinking it was unrealistic. But ball now on the ground, knocked out by Liberatore, and off the ground was kicked away by Marshall. Ahead of centre wing the ball goes. It'll bounce nicely for Keith. Over the shoulder, twitched it back down the line. Bailey Smith got rid of his man in Drew, and then Drew came again and knocked it over the boundary line. Right half forward for the Dogs. Eastern side of the ground, 6 points the margin in favour of the visitors.
It's really hot ball at the moment, guys. Intensity's up this third quarter, so it's going to be very interesting next 5 minutes.
Dogs by 6. Tapped down by Sweet. Burn-Jones can pick it up though for the Power. Skies it up towards the centre square. Daniel leading out again, takes the mark ahead of the pack. Wants to play on quickly. Sends it into the 50 for the Dogs. Bruce is at the back. Alia crunches him, but it doesn't matter. Bruce stands strong and takes the mark. 40 from goal, straight in front.
Once again, I hate to keep saying it, he just wants to play off his man, and I know that can be a strength, Gav, but when it comes in and when teams change angles on you as a defender, you can be susceptible. If we look at the bottom of the screen here, he's got no body pressure on him at all. He gives Josh Bruce like 3 or 4 metres just to jump at the ball, and that's all he needs.
So Josh Bruce inside the centre square. Man on the marks, 40 from goal. And he'll kick just inside the paint. It's flat, but it has plenty of distance. And the goal umpire doesn't have to move. The Dogs out by a 2-goal lead, and Josh Bruce has 2 majors for the evening as well. 10-3-63 rather, playing 8-3-51. The Western Bulldogs up by 2 majors, 11.5 minutes gone in the third quarter on Grandstand AFL.
Yeah, Campo, it's a good point there, because it's a really important part of the game at the moment, and goals are very, hard to come by, and Port are behind. So if you're a defender, you can't be just playing off. You've got to have to be right on him and make sure that you are not, trying to reach or, try to intercept the whole time. You've got to get a bit of body on body.
Well, especially when there's speed in the ball, Gav. Like, that's one of the hardest. If the game is slow and you want to take away some where the leading lane, where the forward actually wants to go, that's fine. But when there's speed in the ball, and a team like the Bulldogs that change direction, fraught with danger.
Back in the middle, Wines takes it off the ruck contest. Pepper then got it back. Drew just tapped it towards Wines, flicked it up to Hartlett. Umpire said there was high tackle, or maybe in the back on Wines, so he'll take the free kick and get a good clearance for Port Adelaide out of the middle. Just takes his time. Now he plays on, goes long to centre half forward. Dixon, the obvious target. Georgiani's flew. Motlop took it off the pack. Hand pass to Amon. He was absolutely taken down. And the umpire called play on. It came back to Hartlett off the side of the boot into the forward pocket. And Duray will just let it go over the line. Right forward pocket. 20 metres around from the goal face for Port Adelaide.
Richmond have their 4th in a row at the Docklands, and it's a 3-point game there. 10-8-68 plays 10-5-65. And it's a 12-point game here at the Adelaide Oval with the Western Bulldogs in front. Bailey Smith trying to get the clearance for them from that ruck contest was smothered. Spills to Rosie, who shrugs off one tackle, runs into the 50, kicks to the goal line. Marshall with one hand brings it in, plays on quickly. Dangerous kick that turns over, too high for Wines. The Dogs have numbers. Bailey Williams mops it up. Clearing kick to Marcus Bontempelli. That was awful from Todd Marshall. The Dogs can go end to end here. Up to left half forward to McNeil. Hands it off to the running Norton. Decides to centre his kick into the 50, but Jonas is the man who reads it best. Running out, takes the intercept mark and narrowly avoids disaster for the Power there.
Well, just go back and kick the goal. Yeah. I mean, you're 3 metres out. I mean, the modern day player doesn't go back for a set shot there. They run around.
So great kick out of defence from Amon. Found Georgiades on the run. He goes down to half forward with a kick for Port Adelaide, but they can't retain possession. Bailey Dale picks it up, goes down to half forward for the Dogs. He's found Scott. He can come inside on his left foot. That's what he wants to do, and now eventually he does. 60 from goal. Goes into the pocket, and Norton rises from behind. And he was so high, he took it on his chest.
Smiling too, that's a good mark.
15 metres out. Not all that much of an acute angle. And he goes around on the left foot and slams it through for the Dogs. And back behind play, there's a problem for Georgiades, and he looks like he's coming from the field.
Clutching at the back of his knee, so he stopped immediately after that turnover and has been proppy ever since. Starting to run now with the trainer, but immediately clutched to the back of his knee. So we'll check in with Josh Money very shortly.
And I hate to keep picking on Aliir because he's had an unbelievable year. I watched him again, and unfortunately, he's just letting Norton just jump at the ball. I watched the ball transition down one side of the ground, and I watched that match up because I'm just concerned that that's going to be the issue for Port Adelaide when the ball gets kicked in forward. Once again, just allows him a free jump at the ball, and Norton is one of the best contested marks in the game, and he put zero body work on him whatsoever. Brett Montgomery would be absolutely pulling his hair out in the coach's box right now.
He sure will be.
What a mark from Aaron Norton, though. Huge rise over Tom Jonas. In the middle, the Dogs are going to get another clearance off the ruck contest. McRae dribbles it towards the attacking edge. Waitman brought down by Bergman, who did well to compose himself and get the hand pass to Hartlett. Kick was smothered, though. Waitman gets it to Lipinski. The Dogs threw a couple of hands. Scott gave it to Liberatore. He's caught. Brought to ground. Bontempelli comes to assist and is pushed over the boundary line. It'll be tossed back inside the Dogs attacking 50. Now up by 18 points. 11-3-69 plays 8-3-51. Three-quarter time at the Docklands. The Giants by 3 over Richmond.
So the ball comes back into play. Laddams comes to the front, knocks it down, gets his own ball, gives it to Wines, and then by hand to Boak, who has to screw the ball over his shoulder down the line. Cordy was too good for Marshall, took a mark at left half forward, will send the Dogs back inside 50 as he plays on and goes long. Aliir looks like he had the better of it. Norton came across the front of him and Aliir won out because he sent it over the boundary line, about 25-30 metres around from the goals that they are attacking the Western Bulldogs. 30 metres around, so we'll get the ball back into play. We'll get down to Josh Money in just a second for an update on what's going on with Mitch Georgiades for Port Adelaide.
Laddams taps it down to Wines. Boak's kick was smothered. Ricocheted to Bergman, who tried to curl it around the body and went straight up, out of bounds on the full. Free kick will come to the Western Bulldogs, 45 from goal. Tight angle to the left. And the recipient, tightest of angles, looks to be Cody Waitman. He's one of their 3 inclusions tonight. Already has 2. Played 3 games last year for 3 goals and has been such a live wire for the Dogs. And shot on goal to come from a tight angle on the left.
Well, this is his pocket, Aaron. He's kicked 2 from this from that first quarter.
Comes in to curl it around again. This time just hooks it too far right. Minus score for the Western Bulldogs, up by 19. Let's head down to Josh Money on the boundary.
Yeah, Aaron, Georgiades getting his left hamstring worked on pretty heavily. So it was that sort of back and knee hamstring area. Looks as though it's hopefully just a bit of tightness, though. I'll keep you posted.
Burton brings it back in for Port Adelaide. Comes the broadcast side. It comes off the hands of Leo, was involved in that, but It'll be taken away by the Dogs. Bailey Williams received a hand pass from Treloar. He managed to ride a tackle, gave it away again, and then Treloar gave it to McNeil inside 50. Kick partly smothered, play on. Port Adelaide through Wines, got a hand pass out. Picked up by Rourke Smith. Went to Bailey Smith. He went backwards. And they find some space eventually for McRae. He's just ahead of centre wing. Sends it to the top of 50. Contest there, won by Alier. Takes the defensive mark for Port Adelaide and looks up. And Port Adelaide just might want to steady this just a little bit. Not a lot of options forward of the play. Eventually Alier plays on. Goes towards centre wing. And DeRay rises and takes the mark and may have hurt his teammate Keith in the process.
Centres his kick to McRae, who marks unopposed in the middle of the centre square. Jack McRae will have his 7th touch for the quarter. Pops it short to the logo on the western side. Duray now heads along to the 50. All alone is Pat Lipinski, who marks it on the paint. 45-degree angle to the left. And he's going back, considering his options. May not have the legs, though. Called to play on. Lipinski will decide to centre his kick to the top of the goal square. Plenty of players underneath it. Juggling it, Laddams couldn't take it. Spills towards Frederick, who tries to bust a couple of tacklers. Hannon just drives him into the turf. Ball up to come. 20 from goal, straight in front for the Western Bulldogs, up by 19.
Lots of players around the ball. Sweet tries to knock it out. Eventually it came to Bergman, who scrubbed the kick out of there for Port Adelaide. Picked up by Daniel, just hand passed it forward. It wasn't a bad hand pass. He found McNeil, who found Treloar, who went backwards to Bailey Smith, around on the right foot. Sent it goalwards, high ball, Norton comes, Pack comes, Hannon gets it off the Pack and snaps a goal. Oh, the Doggies, they're up and running again. It's exactly what happened in the opening quarter. The Dogs getting control of the contest and kicking goals as a result. Western Bulldogs 12-4-76, Port Adelaide 8-3-51, a 25-point lead as we go into time on in this third quarter on Grandstand AFL. Scott Camporelli and Gavin Wanganeen, your experts.
Yeah, the full momentum in the favour of Doggies again, just like the first quarter. And gee, their inside game, outside, they're winning plenty of the footy. The midfielders are just getting their hands on the footy at will, which is, opposite to what was happening in the previous quarter. So Port just need to get their hands back on the footy around the contest and get some really good ball movement going forward. Surprising to see that Big Dicko hasn't even taken a mark for the night, so he's going to be a really important player going forward. If he can just clunk a couple just as a target and get Port back in the game.
So as Neil touched on, just like the opening quarter, the Dogs have got it back to that 25-point lead. The Power could have a clearance here, though. Gray hands it off to Dixon. Short kick to Powell Pepper on the attacking edge. Wants to play on. Pops it to the 50-metre arc to Boak. He continues to move it to the right forward pocket to Georgiades. Leading out, takes it on the chest. Tight angle to the right. 20 from goal.
It's a good bit of play, good ball moving, but it's still a bit wide for my liking. I mean, it's a pretty tough kick. It's going to be a great goal from there.
He's proven to be pretty impressive as a youngster, Mitch Georgiades, and this could certainly add to his early career resume. 1 for the night so far. 15-7 for the year. Starts outside the paint and tries to come in. As I mentioned, a tight angle for Mitch Georgiades. Will kick from 30. He may have just snuck it through. Remarkable. Mitch Georgiades, 2 for the evening. Keeps the Power in it. Back down to a 19-point game. 12-4-76. The Power now 9-3-57. Time on in the third quarter on Grandstand AFL. On the text line 0467 922 891. Dean says the umpires need to step out 15 metres in their preparation. And I think it actually has been a change of, attitude this round, that they aren't giving those easy marks in defensive 50 anymore for those little chip kicks. And we're certainly seeing tonight that they won't be paying them.
Yeah, well, I guess they're continually evolving as well and trying to get better at making decisions, but that's not the difference in the game. The difference in the game is who's winning contests. Port win a centre clearance, great spread by Travis Boak, and just beautiful. But as you said, Gav, wide, and that's what the good teams do. They do force you wide defensively, so you have to try and kick him from there. But he's a beautiful set shot for goal.
Mitch Georgiades with his second of the night. Another clearance for Boak. Off to Pal Pepper. Quick handball in the direction of Gray. Got it inside forward 50. Picked up by Rosie. Did a bit of dancing. Gave it to Motlop. Couldn't get it away cleanly. Liberatore away to Bailey Williams. And then off to Bontempelli. And he comes across the ground looking for Hannon. Ball comes off hands. Hannon goes back. In a contest on the ground, released a hand pass, only found Byrne-Jones. He cleared it towards the boundary line. Crozier will pick it up just behind centre wing for the Dogs. Off to Liberatore. And will that be down the ground? Though it'll be advantage in any case. Daniel picks it off inside to Sweet. He's still inside the centre square, can go long, does so into the pocket. Ball comes off hands. Picked up by Johannesson, taken down by Bergman, did well, forced the ball up, left forward pocket for the Dogs.
They got out of jail there, Port. They had two Bulldogs players ahead of the ball with no one on them. And Big Sweet just thought, I'll just kick it to the longest 50-50, but Hannon was out by himself.
Tossed up, 10 out from goal. Neither ruck got a clean tap. Sweet shrugs one tackle, got a hand pass to Liberatore. Treloar now dead in front, curls it on the right, too far left. Minor score for the Western Bulldogs, out by 20 points now. 12-5-77 plays 9-3-57. Final quarter underway at the Docklands. The Giants up by 10 points over Richmond. 11-9-75 to 10-5-65.
Tom Jonas took his time for Port Adelaide getting the ball in hand, but now he plays on and then kicks long towards centre wing. Bailey Williams comes from behind, knocks it down straight to McRae, and he's tackled immediately by Wines just inside the centre square at left half forward for the Dogs. Ball will be thrown up by the umpire. Down it comes for Dixon, took it off the ruck and then straight down to half forward with his kick. Keith was there, opposed to Marshall. Keith held his feet well. Hand pass to Bailey Williams. Around the corner down to half forward. Hannon from behind. Went up high, couldn't get it. Bergman slipped a hand pass out to the Dogs again with the pressure, forcing scrubby old balls. And there's another ground ball down the line near the interchange gates, picked up by McRae. He's taken down, somehow released it. Pal Pepper tries to break a tackle, succeeds off to Marshall, now Wines.
Hand pass over the top to Boak, who gathers cleanly off the bounce. Centres his kick a bit too short, and the bounce didn't favour Fantasia. Motlop comes to assist. Fantasia half volley from 20 out, too far right. Minor score for the Power. Back to a 19-point game. And unfortunately, the Power have had a couple of awkward bounces in the 50 tonight, and still down, 25-minute mark of the third.
Crozier has ball in hand. He was the sub brought on in the first quarter for Wood. Easton Wood off with a hamstring injury, so the kick long from full back by Crozier eventually finds its way over the boundary line, right half forward on this broadcast side for Port Adelaide.
So toss back into play. The Power looking for a late answer at least. Dixon taps it down to Bonner. Swung around in the tackle, brought to ground by Swade, who got him very safely, very cleanly. Brought him to ground. No free kick though. Ball up to come. Just short of centre wing for the Dogs. Sweet disposes of Dixon in the ruck contest. May have been a hold, and it will go the Power's way. So Charlie Dixon, short of right half forward, has the free kick on the western side. As Gavin Wangadine said, hasn't been impactful on the marking tonight, but sends it inside 50. Bontempelli from nowhere rises across the pack and spoils it out of play. He's been impressive tonight, the captain. And a boundary throw-in to come inside 50 for the Power.
So it looks like it'll be Marshall to go in the ruck contest. Of course, they're missing Lysett as their lead ruckman. He's going to spend 4 matches on the boundary as a result of a tackle last week in the showdown. Now off the pack, no clean disposal. DeRay took it eventually, was taken to ground straight away in a tackle by Powell Pepper. You don't get out of his tackles too often, and certainly DeRay wasn't capable of it. Ball from the umpire goes in the air again. Amon comes through the pack and he's taken down by a couple of Dogs as well. I think the ball up was outside 50 and he ran inside forward 50. I wonder if that counts as a shallow entry.
Tossed up, Laddams in front position, tapped it down. McRae just threw a boot at it, rolls towards the boundary line, had no one in his sight, and it will be deliberate. Hamish Hartlett receives it short of the 50 metres. Has plenty of time to work with as well, still in this third quarter. Hamish Hartlett assesses his options and is called to play on. Just sends it long to the right forward pocket. Contest awaits. Marshall from the back, rose up, couldn't take it. Boak overran the ball. A few Dogs come in. Treloar wrapping up Boak. Ball held up, 15 from goal. Umpire takes his time and calls holding the ball. Travis Boak went in after slipping, I guess, the first attempt. Adam Treloar got him. Let's have a look. Boak puts his head over it, tunnels it, then dives onto it. So free kick to the Western Bulldogs.
Kick comes out from Treloar, high, behind centre wing, smashed forward by Norton. Bruce was smashed by Burn-Jones. It comes to Hartland, hand pass to Laddams. And then back to Burton by hand, and then Burton, I should say, down the line off his left foot. Mark taken easily at half back for the Dogs by Treloar, who now looks and considers. He had options to go back and around, but decided just to blast it down the line. Bergman took an uncontested mark as Bruce was taken away from the contest. Bergman bites off the inside 45, and now it's with Motlop, who received from Amon.
Kicks it out to left half forward to Georgiades. Mismatch against Daniel. Curls around, flat kick into the 50, leading out. Oh, Boak nearly took it and spilt it again through the hands. Waitman gathers, kick was smothered. Out towards the centre square he goes. Burn-Jones will cut it off for the power. Hands it out to Burton, then Bergman. Now Hartlett, and finally the chain of hand passes gets to Bonner. Kicks to the right forward pocket, cut off well by Duray, who got in front of Marshall. Turnover to go to the Western Bulldogs in the left back pocket. The Dogs up by 19 points, late stages of the third.
Duray reading the angles pretty well. The former Hawk goes down the line with a kick. Burton got a toe to it, sent it forward, picked up by Keith for the Dogs though, and then he gave the hand pass off to McNeil, and then a big collision involving Jonas and again Bontempelli. Eventually it came back for Aliir. Aliir beats one with a hand pass inside, got it to Amon. He went back towards Motlop, point of the square at half back. Outside of his boot was a poor kick. Dogs have numbers and they should clear it away, and eventually they do through Treloar. He got it off to Daniel. Daniel forward, hand pass, and after Sweet got rid of the umpire, he was able to get it back to Bailey Smith. He ran around, gave the hand pass wide for Waitman, in turn off to Bontempelli. Thought about the kick, gave it to McNeil, inside 50, standing there alone was Aliir and took the intercept mark.
Could be a game-saving one as we count down the final few seconds of the third quarter. I'm sure Ken Hinkley would have hated to give away a late goal there. The final touch will come from Carl Amon, and the Western Bulldogs will take a 19-point lead into the final quarter here at the Adelaide Oval. They led by 25 at the major break, just by one. They led by 25 at quarter time. They're just by one at the major break, and now by 19 heading into three-quarter time. It's 12-5-77, playing 9-4-58. The goal scorers at three-quarter time for the Western Bulldogs: 3 to Norton, 2 to Bruce and Waitman and Bontempelli, singles to Hannon, McNeil and Johannesson. Meanwhile, for Port Adelaide, 2 to Georgiades and Fantasia, singles to Pau Pepper, Hartlett, Amon, Wines and Willem Drew. So the Western Bulldogs coming into this contest second, Port Adelaide third. Gee, could be a big win for the Dogs on the road at the Adelaide Oval. It's the second time this season they've travelled away from Victoria. And what a scalp it would be if they could knock off the Power at home. They're up by 19 points heading into the final quarter. Plenty to come on ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital. This is Grandstand AFL.
Here's a surprising fact. The average person will spend 1.3 years of their life just doing this. No, not washing the car. Not what you think. No, it's working out what to watch on the telly. Huh? Surprising, right? But don't panic. You can save a lot of that time on ABC iView. Jaw-dropping comedy, eye-popping drama, and all the mind-blowing telly you could wish for. Download the app now on your phone, tablet or smart TV. ABC iView. Don't be surprised if you're surprised.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
Off the ruck contest, Norton busting through, was caught in a dangerous tackle, driven into the turf. And the umpire definitely saw it that way. Free kick to Aaron Norton against Tom Jonas. He's driven head first. And will kick from 48. Has a lot of height. Heading straight towards goal. And it beats the defenders on the goal line. That's a major for the Dogs. Sends it into the 50 for the Dogs. Bruce is at the back. Aliir crunches him, but it doesn't matter. Bruce stands strong and takes the mark. And he'll kick just inside the paint. It's flat, but it has plenty of distance. And the goal umpire doesn't have to move.
60 from goal. Goes into the pocket and Norton rises from behind. and he was so high he took it on his chest.
Smiling too, that's a good mark.
15 metres out, not all that much of an acute angle, and he goes around on the left foot and slams it through for the Dogs. Bailey Smith around on the right foot, sent it goalwards, high ball, Norton comes, Pat comes, Hannon gets it off the pack and snaps a goal.
To Boak, he continues to move it to the right forward pocket to Georgiades. Leading out, takes it on the chest, tight angle to the right, kick from 30. He may have just snuck it through. Remarkable. Mitch Georgiades keeps the power in it.
The 2021 AFL Premiership season on ABC Radio and on ABC Sport Digital.
A back and forth affair here at the Adelaide Oval. It was the Dogs who dominated the first quarter and then the third after releasing their lead to Port Adelaide. They led by 25 at quarter time, 1 at the major break. They're now up by 19 heading into the final quarter. And what is a massive game for both sides. Both are desperate to improve their premiership credentials. The Western Bulldogs would love an away win against the Power. 12-5-77 plays 9-4-58 on Grandstand AFL. The text line, if you'd like to get in touch with us this evening, 0467 922 891. Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you, your experts, Brownlow medalist Gavin Wanganeen, Carlton Premiership player Scott Camporelli. Just quickly, gents, I'll give a score update at the Docklands. The Giants up by 15 points now over Richmond, 12-9-81 to 10-6-66. And gents, how do you see this final quarter playing out?
Well, it's sort of gone, but after what we've seen in the first 3 quarters, you would expect Port will fight back somewhat and give us a real tight game towards the end. But once again, it just tipped into the favour of the Bulldogs. You saw Bontempelli, they responded. Treloar started getting the ball again. McRae started getting the ball. Bailey Smith had 8 or 9 possessions for the quarter, had a real influence on the game. But for me, that's part of it, Gavin, but I was really critical with Aaliyah, particularly in that quarter. They kicked 3 from turnover, and he had a hand in all those based on his positioning ahead of the ball. You can't, against a team like the Bulldogs, who want to change angles when there's speed in the ball, expect just to zone off and let your key forwards in Bruce and Norton jump at the ball. That's not going to win you games of footy, and it's not definitely going to win you a premiership.
No, you can probably do that when you're 7 or 8 goals up, but not during crucial parts of the game to play that risky style and give your opponent an opportunity to run and jump at the footy. I mean, these guys are great athletes too. They can jump high and mark just like him. So it's going to be a very, very interesting last quarter. The Doggies got their momentum going at the moment, so Port, they really need to fight back. They need to get their hands on the footy around the stoppages, get the ball movement going forward to give their forwards a look. Quiet players for Port: Gray, Rosie, Fantasia, Dixon. So, but if these guys can't get in the game, if the midfielders don't get it down there, and their last chance is now in the last quarter, so I'm really looking forward to this.
The Western Bulldogs continue on the way they're going. They currently sit first on the live ladder. Melbourne do play Carlton tomorrow, but it's looking good for the Dogs right now. Meanwhile, Port Adelaide have currently dropped to 5th beneath Geelong and Brisbane. So it's definitely a big game in the context of the season, especially with the top 4, when we're yet to really see a team put their hand up. Maybe Melbourne as the team to beat right now, considering they're unbeaten, but there's always doubts around Melbourne. At what point will they capitulate? And I think the team that wins tonight will certainly have a lot to back in their credentials. Crossy?
Oh, they used to say that about Richmond. Let's
true.
go back 4 years ago. It was just a matter of when they capitulate.
When will they go full Richmondy? Well, they're doing it this year at the moment. The Giants look like they're heading towards a victory over them. It's 15 points at Docklands, 12-9-81. The Tigers 10-6-66. So Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you alongside Gavin Wanganeen, Scott Camporelli. The text line 0467 922 891. The injuries as well. Both medical subs have been activated. Cleary and Wood are out. Crozier and Frederick are in. And Josh Money on the boundary to keep us updated. In this final quarter, the Western Bulldogs lead by 19 points here at the Adelaide Oval.
Ball bounce very nicely. Laddams with a tap down. He'll have a good run in the ruck over the next month, you'd think, with Lycett out through suspension. Ball out there on the eastern side. Still no clean possession. Pal Pepper, bottom of the pack. So is Liberatore, who got it out for the Dogs, and they get it down to half forward. Crunch. Norton from behind over the top of Burton. And now big tackle made on Scott, but he got it back to Rourke Smith for the Dogs. Again, Liberatore somehow got a Hand pass out. Andy found his man DeRay and sent it inside forward 50. There was a free kick there. Frederick will come away for Port Adelaide.
Hands it to Motlop, who didn't see Bruce coming, somehow shrugged him away. Dangerous kick defensively, though, was intended for Aaliyah. Motlop has to come and mop it up in the defensive goal square. Ooh. Dangerous again to Jonas. Probably didn't see Anthony Scott coming through. Jonas did well to compose himself and take the mark, so the Power can settle down a bit in defensive 50 after the early onslaught. Jonas will go across the goal face. Burn Jones will mark. Pops it up to left half back. Rising up, Wines was collected. Big hit to the head. He is down. Johannesson can row for the Dogs. Centres his kick to the top of the goal square. Norton pushed out of it. Hartley will fist it through for a minor score. Wines is still on his knees. Only had eyes for the ball and was collected by the hip in that contest of Zane Cordy. Wines is on his feet, though, and doesn't seem to be coming off as the Dogs head out of, or Power rather, head out of defensive 50.
And it'll be a free kick in the contest to Aaliyah, and cheers for the umpires, I'm sure, from the Port crowd. Aaliyah plays on, goes short to that man Wines. Quick hand pass back to Aaliyah, pokes another ball over the top, finds Motlop. Still inside the centre square, behind the centre circles. Motlop takes and waits. Now he elects just to go long. Crozier, who will come third, 4 deep, and then knocks it to the front. Gray couldn't get the ball. Bailey Williams picked it up. Gray got him. Ball still in dispute. Now Gray's got the ball. Now Gray's taken down. Finally, the umpire says, I've had enough. Give it to me.
I just feel like Port, if they just inject Rosie just for 5 minutes through the midfield, he's just a class player. He's clean and he makes stuff happen. Port need to kick a goal here just to get some momentum going again.
Off the ruck contest, Liberatore hands it out to Rourke Smith at left half back. Gets it to Treloar. The Dogs have numbers on this eastern wing. A hand pass to McRae. Flat kick looking for Scott. Aaliyah got a hand to it but couldn't cut it off. It does ricochet to Scott. Gathers off the bounce and kicks it high to the left forward pocket. Norton has a run at it. Coming back, Jonas did well to knock it over the boundary line. It'll be tossed back in the left forward pocket for the Dogs. Up by 20 points. 12-6-78. Plays 9-4-58. Early stages of the final quarter at the Adelaide Oval.
Important contests for Port Adelaide now. Defensively again, they've been under pressure in this last quarter so far. Ball comes eventually to a don't argue from Powell Pepper, pushed off his opponent, sent it outside 50. Interesting move by Rosie. Stuck a leg out, then took a mark. Hand pass as he played on the logo on centre wing. Marshall got it, just tumbled the ball down the field, and it went out. And did he make enough of an effort? Yes, said the umpire. So it'll be throw in, right half forward.
That's unforgivable. Like, kick a drop punt. Why is he trying to kick a barrel there? He's got a one-on-one contest.
Toss back in. Laddams up against Sweet. Laddams tapped it down. Bonner can gather off the bounce. A hand pass to the boundary line. Boak can pick it up. Gets it to Wines, whose kick was smothered. Ricocheted over the head of Bonner. The Power just keep trying to surge forward. Boak flicks it back to Wines. Runs around a couple of tacklers. A hand pass over the top to the open Laddams. Lowers his eyes. Was intending the kick for Marshall, but just floated a bit too long. Johannesson cuts it off and the Dogs are away.
Gave it to Crozier short. Took the mark straight out towards Bruce on centre wing opposed to Burton. Ball comes to ground. Bruce opposed to Burton. He's on the ground now. Tried to release the ball out. Umpire said you threw it.
Well done, Burton.
Bruce made the mistake going to ground and allowed Burton to tower over him, and that allowed Burton to make the tackle. So he'll receive the free kick between centre wing and half back for Port Adelaide. Down the line with the kick.
Through the hands of Dixon. Georgiades will mop it up, but he's quickly tackled. Ball up to come short of left half forward for the Western Bulldogs. I should say Port Adelaide, sorry. Port Adelaide kicking to the northern end this term. Off the ruck contest, Paupapa gets it to Boak. Tried to get around Daniel. Did enough to flick a hand pass to Paupapa, who threw it out. Couple of tackles. Johannesson, the last one. The Dogs get the free kick and won't receive the advantage either. It'll come back to Jason Johannesson on the paint of defensive 50. So he'll play on and send it up the western side. On centre wing, Aaliyah got rid of Bruce, but ran into Laddams, who had a clean rise at it. Didn't take it. Aaliyah does well to mop it up, though. Hand pass to Boak. The Power heads central. Motlop now. Curls his kick towards the circle, sitting it up for Georgiades, who did well to take it up against Bailey Williams.
Oh, go to goal. You got Marshall and Crozier one out.
Headed out wide instead to Bonner on the eastern wing, and he'll pop it short to right half forward. Rosie has it, but the time has gone. The 50's flooded. Rosie sends it in. Daniels underneath it. Crushed. Gray came through. Hartlett diving onto it is wrapped up. Ball's about 40 from goal, and we will get a ball up. But as you touched on there, Campo, the opportunity's gone.
Well, Georgiades and Caleb Daniel, and massive collision. Georgiades smashed that pack. Good courage by Caleb Daniel to back into the pack, but not sure why they went wide. Yet they had a one-on-one contest steep, and then just allowed the doggies to get back inside Port's forward 50.
And the Dogs clear the area, then Rosie takes it, sends it back in. Another big collision involving Crozier and Marshall, and it comes off hands and over the line, and just got the glasses on Caleb Daniel, struggling for breath right at the moment, but he's a brave little guy. He's going to continue on. Ball to be thrown in
the scoreboard pocket. Dixon at the front, tapped it straight to Gray. Got boot to ball on the left. It's straight across the goal face though. Marshall knocked it down. Spilled to Amon, 35 from goal. Faked and gave it to Drew. He should have just kicked it. Back to Gray, who slips as he kicks it. Bounces through the legs of Trelaw. Clean ball. Amazing. Robbie Gray looks to have got one. They'll check the score review to see if it was touched, but that's just so unlucky for Adam Trelaw. The bounce hasn't favoured Port Adelaide all night, and this has gone straight through his legs.
That's the ultimate nutmeg.
Not with the ramble either.
Robbie Gray's going to have his first. Adam Trelaw. Oh, jeez.
That is brilliant.
Football can be beautiful sometimes, can't it?
Oh, you can't script it, can you?
So Gray slipping as he kicked it. They made a meal of that attempt on goal, but the footy gods shined on them there. A major to come their way, and there will be a 14-point deficit at the 7.5-minute mark of the final quarter. Score review about to come in as you can hear the crowd get up and about. Port Adelaide have 10 for the evening.
They're still going.
They're still waiting to decide what's happening here.
What was the umpire's call? Did he call a goal? Yeah.
There it is.
Well, you could almost cue the Benny Hill music before that, couldn't you, in terms of what was going on?
That's how it ended.
Aim on no right foot, Gav. Got to get down there and teach him how to kick both sides.
Yeah.
He wanted to get on his left. He tried a couple of times, but Robbie Gray... And we saw Johannesson slip over down the other end when he had a set shot for goal. So, as we know here in Adelaide, it does get a little dewy at times. But Robbie, that was the ultimate nutmeg.
So poor old Adam Trelaw clean bowled at the Adelaide Oval. And aren't the home fans happy about it? We're down to 14 points, the margin in favour of the Bulldogs. They led by 25 at quarter time, by 1 at half time, and then back out to 19 at three-quarter time. Now the margin 14. So back in the middle, Sweet with a tap down. His opposing ruckman Laddams got it, shared the hand pass quickly to Gray, went with a spectacular over the backhand pass. Somehow Boat managed to get it. Drew was involved after Laddams as well, and then down to half forward to the chest of Marshall from Bonner, and then Marshall still inside the centre square, goes deep for Charlie Dixon. Umpire says yes, you took it, Charlie. Might even be his first mark of the night.
Yep.
So Dixon, just checking the numbers, it is his first mark of the night, and he'll go back from 25 metres out straight in front. Amazing how a piece of luck can turn a match. Trelaw with the bad bounce went through his legs from Robbie Gray for a goal maybe 60 seconds ago.
He can drag these left, Crossy.
Here comes Charlie, and he dragged it left, but not far enough. Just inside the left-hand goal post, Charlie Dixon kicks his first of the night. Port Adelaide creep even closer, 8 the margin. Port Adelaide 11-4-70. Western Bulldogs 12-6-78 after 10 minutes of the final quarter. Scott Camporelli and Gavin Wanganeen, your experts.
Yeah, it's really important for Big Dicko to get a grab and get something out of the game. He's had a quiet, first 3 quarters. But if you just hang in there, that hopefully, for his sake, he can just get his confidence going and help his side to, get involved and maybe kick another goal, provide a few, balls to the ground for crummers and so on.
Well, he's competed well. I mean, that's all you can ask sometimes. I mean, the ball hasn't been fluid, but Travis Boak, what a player. 3 or 4 efforts through the middle of the ground just to turn that ball over. Great kick by Bonner, and then Marshall hits Dixon in a forward 50 kick.
8-point game at the Adelaide Oval, 2-point game at the Docklands. The Giants up there. Gray gets the clearance for the power. Georgiades spilt the mark. Crozier skies it out of the 50, doesn't go far. Williams underneath it, couldn't take it. Drew applies some pressure. Daniel gets it towards Bontempelli over the backhand pass to Rourke Smith. Could have been a throw. Gets out to McRae. Heads up the eastern wing. Pinpoint pass to Scott, who marks up ahead of Tom Jonas. So on the eastern wing, the Dogs now head towards the 50. Great kick into Jason Johannesson. He'll take the mark. 45 from goal. Tight angle to the left.
Great kick by Bontempelli there. The captain standing up during a crucial part of the game.
Looks like Drew's just going with him now just to try and at least give him some sort of pressure. I mean, he's been brilliant.
Dan Rioli's just put Richmond in front with 3.5 left in the final quarter.
Come on, Aaron. Concentrate, please.
Jason Johannesson from 60 out, loads up for the Western Bulldogs. Heaps of carry. Amazing goal. A career-low average of 10 touches, Jason Johannesson, but tonight he has been on fire. 2 goals now for the Western Bulldogs. Silences the crowd here at the Adelaide Oval. They're back up by 14 points, the Western Bulldogs. 13-6-84 to 11-4-70. 12-minute mark of the final quarter on Grandstand AFL.
Well, they just went coast to coast, didn't they? I mean, it was Bontempelli that flicked this over the handball over there, then pushed hard forward, and then, as you said, nice controlled kick to Johannesson. That, great finish. He's kicked 2 goals from that sort of range, and we know that he is a beautiful kick. He hasn't probably captured the form that he has since the grand final win a few years ago, and he's Norm Smith. He's always sort of been in and out. Now playing forward, used to be down back, but once again, the good players, you only got to give him 10 to 15 possessions and he takes his chance.
Bontempelli, 24 touches, 4 marks, ball back in the middle. Bruce comes, knocks it away. Wines had it. Liberatore just towed it forward. There was a holding decision, and it was against Waitman for the Dogs, and the free kick will be taken by Frederick for Port Adelaide. Shares it straight away for Bergman running.
Hands it off to Rosie. Has some time in the centre square. Gives it to Gray. Runs through the eastern side. Up to right half forward he goes. Leading out Fantasia. Wanted to play on quickly. Man on the mark. Did move. Umpire must not have called stand. Fantasia decides to send it long. Dixon underneath it. Ball beat him. Rosie there front and square. Wrapped up by 2. Great tackling pressure from the Dogs. 10 out from goal. It'll be balled up for the Power in their attacking 50, down by 14.
Umpire puts it up. Neither ruckman able to get a touch on it. Drew, hand pass back to the Bull, and Wines couldn't get through. Now it came to Bailey Dale. Smuggled the hand pass out. Rosie takes it in the pocket. Looks around, dodges, gets a hand pass to Gray. Taken down as he tried to kick it. Umpire's head in the back. Waitman came fast and hard, and Gray will take the free kick. And Robbie Gray is not... He's done this before from this sort of angle at this sort of time in big matches.
Not really, Gav. When he sort of got him onto the side. A little bit on the
side initially, then dragged into the back late.
So Gray from the scoreboard pocket, the 4-time All-Australian, the 3-time best and fairest. Oh, he scrubs the kick, and it's come off the pack and hasn't even scored. Crozier just clears the area briefly, bounces to Wines, 40 from goal, hooks it around again. He won't make the distance, but Dixon puts up the jukes and takes the mark 5 metres out. And Charlie should have no troubles kicking his second.
A little fade left, Campo.
Well, I hope not, Gav. I hope he aims just close. Inside that right post. Just gives himself plenty of room.
Dixon, we're halfway through the final quarter. They can creep back again. Port Adelaide, Dixon this time. Sent it to the right, but just inside the right post. but it was the right result for Port Adelaide. They get close again. They're within 8 points again. 12-4-76 plays the Bulldogs. 13-6-84. As I said, 15 and a half minutes, so about halfway through this final term on Grandstand AFL at the Adelaide Oval.
Well, the big guys don't get any smaller, do they? I mean, Dixon, he's taken 2 great contested marks, as you said, Gav. He hasn't probably marked them tonight, but he's competed well, which, you know, we love about Charlie. He does give, you know, full effort the whole time. But, you know, there was 3 Bulldogs guys around that contest there, and none of them could either shift him or have any influence on the aerial contest. He's kicked 2 goals in this quarter, got the power back in the game.
Big fellas don't get any smaller at the end of the game.
The Giants with the last roll of the dice. They went inside 50 with 30 seconds to go. Nick Vostern has just kicked it out of defensive 50. It's bounced over the line and it's deliberate. So a tight finish there at the Docklands. Meanwhile here, Boak puts his head over the ball for the power. Overruns it. Bruce in the middle. Got it to Bailey Smith for the Dogs. Kicks around the body to right half forward. Bouncing awkwardly for Amon. Got a fist to it. Scott's underneath it. Fredericks chasing him. Wraps him up in the tackle, but he got a hand pass to Rourke Smith. Now Dale can go into the 50 for the Dogs. Kicks over the contest. There's a free kick in it. Burton has pushed out his opponent. McNeil has it. Man on the mark is 45 from goal. McNeil's considering going back here, and he will. So tight angle to the right.
Waitman's inside forward 50 all by himself.
The Giants have missed a late shot on goal, and it looks like Richmond will escape with a 4-point win at the Docklands. Lockie McNeil looking to silence the crowd once again. It's been back and forth in this final quarter. McNeil kicks from 50. It's left, hooking massively. Doesn't have distance either. Alir actually spoiled it up against Dixon. Spills to the Dogs' advantage. A hand pass is turned over, though, and Marshall can clear it to right half back.
It's high. Was there a push? Cordy, no, said the umpire. So Cordy's got the mark for the Dogs. 60 from goal. Can send it long again. Called the play on. Sends it into the pocket. Bruce was up, off the pack. Waitman towards the goals. Norton, he took it. It mustn't have been 15, or if it was touched off the boot. In the end, it was smothered. The hand pass from Norton over the boundary line, just 10 metres or so around from the left forward pocket. So we get that throw in.
So Dixon up against Bruce. Bruce in the front position. Tried to gather it off the bounce. Fell towards Burton. He couldn't take it. Scott gets a hand pass out. Waitman trying to bust through a couple is held up. About 25 from goal. Ball up to come. And confirmation at the Docklands. Richmond, after trailing pretty much the entire game, has defeated the Giants by 4 points. On the reset, Dixon takes it out of the ruck against Bruce. Gets the clearance out of the 50. Hits Rosie. Definitely didn't intend to do that, but it's worked very well. Rosie plays on up the eastern wing. Puts it out in front of Georgiades, who has plenty of distance on his opponent. Soccers it out of the air towards Palpepper, who taps it in front of Fantasia. The bounce didn't work. Dale can clear it back to the eastern wing to open space. Boat comes in. Treloar applies some pressure. Spills towards Bergman, who can't get through a couple. Held up by a ton of Dogs there on the logo. Ball up to come. So the Western Bulldogs up by 8 points. A thrilling finish to come tonight here at the Adelaide Oval. Third place second.
We had 4 lead changes in the second term. 5 overall in this match. Off the pack it comes to Boak, slips it to Wines, and then Rosie slipped when he took the ball and he was tackled straight away by Bailey Smith, and the umpire says it's mine.
Oh, he's out, Rosie, then, wasn't he? He was out. Just slipped his footing.
So it's between the centre circles and the front end for Port Adelaide, as the ball comes back from Drew. Gave it to Wines. Hand pass forward, finds Boak. Right half forward, he runs to 55. Sends it to the goal square. Going back was Motlop. Couldn't get the ball. It was tapped away by DeRay. Picked up in the pocket by Daniel. And then a spear of a pass. Had to be good. Found Treloar. The Dogs will come out of defence.
It's out to the scoreboard pocket now. Treloar will head to Crozier, the medical sub. So Eastonwood out with a hamstring. Cleary with a jaw. Frederick, their medical sub for Port Adelaide. Great intercept mark from Wines, and the pack is a bit ginger from it as well. Plenty of heavy contests tonight, Ollie Wines, but he's keeping the power in it. Short of right half forward. Can bomb it back into the 50. Centres his kick about 30 out. Leading out Marshall. Couldn't take the mark. Spilled to Treloar again. Hand pass to Cordy. Clears the kick for the Dogs. Norton just disposes of Wines. Busts through him and takes the mark for the Dogs at left half back.
Not easy to do, but he got him really well and then took the mark. Inboard he goes to Treloar, but still outside of the centre square in the main corridor. Treloar thinks about it, goes back inside defensive 50 to Cordy. Spreads it from that left side of the field to this side. Comes to Crozier and then to Keith with the mark. So Keith backs up. Fantasia on the mark. Keith takes his time and down, looking for Hannon, who spilt the ball in the marking contest. Good contest made there by Marshall. Ball goes over the boundary line just near the interchange gates.
Aaron Bryans and Neil Cross with you alongside Gavin Wanganeen and Scott Camporelli. We'll be with you till 10:30 local. So feel free to get in touch with us on the text line 0467 922 891. The Dogs up by 8. No ruck for the Power, so Sweet just double fists it down, looking for Scott. Couldn't take it cleanly. Boak in a contest, didn't win. The Dogs did. Hand pass out to McRae. A 1-2 with Rourke Smith. Gathers inside the boundary line and curls it around on the left. Bergman did well to get rid of his opponent. Quickly wrapped up in a tackle. Got it to Burne-Jones. The Power head into the centre square. A skyward ball. Rising up, Fantasia may have given away a free kick. Coming down with the fist has hit Duray, or either he's taken the mark. Regardless, the Western Bulldogs have it in the centre square. Through Taylor Duray, and the Dogs, as they have been the last few minutes, just slowing things down. I don't think they can afford to do so with just an 8-point lead.
They went back to Keith. He took the mark, straight away spread it to Cordy, and then Cordy went wide. And he found Crozier, and right on the boundary he found Williams, and then Williams went down the line and coming across and knocking it out of play was Rosie ahead of his opponent Lipinski. So the ball will be thrown in at left half forward for the Dogs.
So 3-1 for the Power in this final quarter, still trailing by 8. Ladham's got the tap down. Bailey Smith there for the Dogs though. Gets it out to Lipinski. Hand pass didn't work for Duray, who regathers. Gets it to McRae inside the boundary line. Curls it from left half forward into the 50 at the front. Hannon couldn't take it. Frederick has to wrap up. Waitman about 45 from goal. Ball up to come inside the Dogs attacking 50. Ollie Wines has 30 touches. Jack McRae with 31 for the Dogs.
Second place Dogs coming into this match against the third place Port Adelaide. The Dogs lead it just at the moment. Off the pack, it's come to Caleb Daniel high, inside 50, wide out, and a chance for Jonas, who spills an easy mark over the boundary line, just where the arc of 50 meets the boundary. So we'll get the throw in. Around 35,000 Port supporters in the house, and I saw about 4 or 5 Dogs supporters at one stage.
Very vocal as well tonight, the Power crowd. Ladham's at the front, tapped it down. Johannesson overran it. Pau Pepper can clear it up the eastern side. An errant kick into the square worked very well for the leading out Cordy, who beat Rosie to it. Cordy kicks across the back edge of the square. Crozier will take it unopposed. There's no one behind him in terms of the field of play. And Crozier will pop it towards the western wing. A nice, accurate pass finds Cordy once again short of the logo. The Dogs just have no pace in this final quarter. Cordy heads towards the benches. Williams is alone in front of the Power bench. They have 4 players waiting to come on, including Wines, Dixon and Amon. 3 of their best. Johannesson takes the mark, plays on and sends it into the 50. To the right forward pocket, the lead out from Sweets. The ruckman at the front of the pack, unopposed, takes the mark. Tight angle to the right, 40 from goal.
That's really poor by Port. I counted that there was 6 uncontested marks. The Bulldogs just kept changing, and it was Boak. It was Gray. It was just guys just sitting off their opponent, and then they get a kick inside 50 to virtually an uncontested mark.
Jordan Sweet, the ruckman, comes in. Tight angle on the right. It's looking left across the goal face. Stays in the field of play. Spills down in front of the goal line, and it's an amazing goal. Gathered and curled it around. Cody Waitman, has his 3rd for the evening, and that could be the answer the Western Bulldogs are looking for. 3.5 left in this final quarter, and they're back up by 14 points. The Power needs something miraculous. 14-6-90 plays 12-4-76.
Yeah, as we said, they moved the ball, the Bulldogs, from virtually half back. They got a mark at half back. and they just kept changing the angles, and Port either through fatigue or concentration, Gav, not too sure, or actual want. Do you actually want to defend late in the game? It was 8 points in it. They actually got the ball to virtually just over halfway. Then Johannesson had some run and used his legs and uncontested mark pretty much in front of Peter Laddams.
It was Laddams opposing ruckman who took the mark. So if you're inside your forward 50 and your ruckman's there, you become the backman and don't allow him to mark it.
Waitman's third of the night. And now his goal is followed up by Bontempelli with a clearance out of the middle, and Norton with a mark. Juggled it, got rid of his man. Alier, and then took a juggled mark. So he's going to have a look at the goal face, probably about a 45-degree angle and no more than 30 metres out. Talk about turning points in the game. Bulldogs' biggest lead of the match was 26 points in the opening quarter. And now it stands at 14. 26 minutes into the last quarter, and Norton comes in and makes no mistake. His third of the night, and the Dogs look home. It's the Western Bulldogs moving along to 15-6, 96, a 20-point lead over Port Adelaide, 12-4, 76, 26 and a half gone in the final term on Grandstand AFL.
Yeah, it's going to be tough from here, Gav. Not sure what else Port can do. I know traditionally they'll go all out attack and see whether they can, with just over 2.5 minutes to go, 20 points. Can they do it?
Oh, it'll be tough. But like you said, look, they've got to get something out of the next 3 or 4 minutes. They've got to go full out attack to at least have a crack. It'll be disappointing if they don't and the Dogs kick a bigger winning score. So let's see what they're made of in this last 3 or 4 minutes and if they can give themselves a sniff. I mean, the Dogs have been brilliant though, haven't they?
They've been in control for the majority of the night. It was really only the second quarter that the Power got back into it. And the margin did favour them a little bit. In the middle, Boak flicks a hand pass out, cut off by Waitman, gave it to Johannesson, who's run down, no free kick. Hartlett falling in, got the ball out towards Gray. The Power can surge through the middle. Pal Pepper just slipped, managed to tap it out towards Bonner, sends it into the 50. There's a few players alone. Georgiades pushed out his opponent, Cordy, underneath the ball. Free kick to the Dogs. They had the numbers there. It just seemed a bit unnecessary.
Yeah, couldn't help himself, the young fella, in that position. It's a fine line, isn't it? Whether you should push or just leave your hands to your side and go for the mark.
He gave himself up too. He realised straight away and put his hands... I didn't. Dogs now. Flare it wide. They've got well and truly control. Lipinski with the ball. Sends it outside that defensive 50. Off the pack, it was interesting by Bruce. Didn't look like a hand pass. In there was Liberatores, whose birthday tomorrow, just quietly. Ball back into the centre, though, in favour of Motlop. Overran it. Now he's tackled by Bailey Smith. Ball taken off him by Jonas. Hand pass back. Centre of the ground, dead centre of the ground. Picked up by... it was sent long there by Amon in the end. Finally got it.
Dropping numbers back. Big Bruce from the forward line back in the defensive 50, helping out in the air there.
So Bruce for the Dogs, just holding things up inside defensive 50. And the late flurry from them might be enough to get them over the line. Clears it out. Off a couple of hands, Rourke Smith can thrust it forward. Alier cuts it off but had a fumble. Hannon comes in, gets the hand pass out for the Dogs. Chalor with a nice little flick again. McRae run down though by Gray. No free kick. The Power trying to get some energy going. Powell Pepper spins out of a tackle. Hand pass to Bonner on the logo western side. Gives it back to Laddams. Pops it towards the 50. Bailey Williams will rise. Drops the mark though. Dixon front and square. Gets the hand pass back to Amont. 55 out. Gives it to Wines. Skies it to the right forward pocket. The Dogs have numbers again. Rourke Smith backing up, or it was Lipinski rather. Knocked it out towards Sweet. The ruckman dove down. Couple of tacklers on him. Didn't look very good. He's not going to win an Oscar for that effort. Free kick to the Power. Stephen Motlop has it. 40 from goal. Slight angle to the right. Stephen Motlop, the consolation prize coming for the Power. So Motlop will start inside the centre square. Comes in. Past the paint of 50, will kick from 45. A nice, easy dink that's across the face and through for a minor score on the left. And that will do us here at the Adelaide Oval. The Western Bulldogs find their bite and prove exactly why they're a contender. The Western Bulldogs defeat Port Adelaide by 19 points at the Adelaide Oval. It was a thrilling contest all evening. The Dogs dominated the opening quarter to lead by 25. The Port Adelaide answered back with 5 unanswered goals to reduce it to a 1-point margin at half-time. The Dogs led by 19 at three-quarter time. It got very close. 8 points the margin midway through that final quarter, but almost a deflating finish for Port Adelaide and their home fans as the Western Bulldogs rolled over them to win by 19 points. 4 goals to Norton, 3 to Waitman, 2 to Bruce, Bontempelli and Johannesson. The Western Bulldogs defeat Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval. Some questions over the past few weeks of the Western Bulldogs after their loss to Richmond and a tight win over Carlton, but tonight they answer those questions and move to the top of the table, at least temporarily, with Melbourne to play Carlton tomorrow. The Western Bulldogs defeating Port Adelaide away from home in just their second away trip of the season. 19 points the final margin. Those other goal kickers for the Dogs, I'll roll through them again. So 4 to Norton, 3 to Waitman, 2 to Bruce, Bontempelli and Johannesson, singles to McNeil, Hannon for the Dogs. Meanwhile, for Port Adelaide, 2 to Georgiades, Dixon and Fantasia. Singles to Pepper, Hartlett, Gray, Amon, Wines and Drew. The win came with a few injuries as well. Easton Wood with a hamstring in the first quarter had to be replaced by Hayden Crozier, and Tom Cleary having a jaw issue after a head collision had to be subbed out for Martin Frederick. But Port Adelaide, again, will have a lot of questions come their way. Another loss to a top 8 side. The only team they've managed to beat is Richmond, who have managed to stay in the top 8 with a win over the Giants tonight. But in terms of those big name teams, Brisbane, now the Western Bulldogs and the West Coast Eagles, there are going to be some serious questions about Port Adelaide and whether or not they can compete with the best. To break it down for you all in the post-game tonight, Carlton Premiership player Scott Camporelli, Brownlow medalist Gavin Wanganeen.
Yeah, well, you know, in the end, it probably went the way that, you know, I guess where the Bulldogs have been for most of the year. They managed to get their noses in front in contested ball. That went to and fro for most of the night, but, you know, they got their noses in front in that second half, Gav. You know, Port's pressure was pretty good. I thought the battle through the midfield was great, but just a weight of numbers for me through the midfield. McRae, Liberatore, Treloar and Bontempelli, you know, they all had over 25 possessions each and were influential, really. Whereas I thought it was really only Wines and Boak that really probably stood up through there. They didn't really have much support. You know, Powell Pepper did his usual sort of in and under, but he doesn't hurt the opposition like a McRae or a Treloar in terms of getting forward of the ball. And I just thought, you know, the game was a game of momentum, particularly around the contest. But for me, I just thought Aaron Norton ahead of the ball. I mean, he had, 3 contested marks and kicked 4 on the night. He was a difference probably ahead of the ball, and obviously Waitman was influential too with his 3 goals too ahead of the ball. So, and you know, from Port's perspective, don't really think their forward line really functioned that well. I thought they tried to isolate, but the Bulldogs managed to hang in there. You know, Dixon only kicked 2 in the last quarter, didn't have a lot of influence on the game. Georgiades kicked his 2. You know, he's averaging the 2 each week, and so is Fantasia. But overall, it was probably Bulldogs deserved to win. Time in possession, 39% to 42 from the Bulldogs' perspective. But if you go through all the numbers, the Bulldogs probably should have won.
Yeah, no, you're right there, Campo. Right from the get-go, they set the tone, and Port, fought back really nicely in that second quarter, but that was probably all that they had. They just couldn't keep up with the consistency and the ability of the Dogs to keep winning the ball inside and out, and their midfielders, the Bont, 26 possessions, but 2 goals. He probably handed out 3 or 4. He hurts you. With Port midfielders were great, but I don't think they were hurting like, the Bulldogs midfielders. I think Waitman, the young fella, his energy, his speed, his strength for a little fella early got them up and going. If you look at, in contrast, Rosie, who was up the other end for Port, no energy, no hardly any stats early. So, Port were coming from a long way back from a forward's perspective because they didn't have that up and about energy early. We go to 2 really interesting stats for me is the uncontested possession. Port had 186 and 231 to the Dogs. That's work rate. Just consistency of an overwhelming work rate that will destroy any opposition that you come up against if you provide those sorts of numbers. The loose ball gets 89 to 106 again. They were on the ball the whole time pretty much, and it just goes to show the Doggies are one of the best in the business at the moment. I was really impressed.
So that pressure that the Dogs applied tonight to Port Adelaide, that's been a common trend in their losses. So Brisbane harassed them at the Gabba. The Eagles in that first half at Perth Stadium took over. And it seems like when Port Adelaide cannot dictate play, they just fall apart.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I think the Bulldogs have been able to do that to all the teams this year. So not just Port Adelaide, that's the way they play. I think it's a bit unfair to, compare. I thought they were brave tonight. I thought they got off to a bad start, and we thought, geez, this is going to get ugly. But they fought back. They're actually been able to get control of the game again and put their noses in front. But it was just too inconsistent and not for long enough. You talk about the time in possession is interesting, but in terms of the weighted numbers, if it was time in possession with contested possession, in terms of the way that game went, they were always just had their noses in front. And I think Port burned a lot of energy, particularly in that first half, just to try and get themselves back into consideration of the game. But look, full credit to the Dogs. They're having an outstanding season. They deserve to be, on top of the ladder tonight, Aaron, if that's the way it goes. Obviously Melbourne play tomorrow, but they're in really good form. They lost Easton Wood. They lost a key defender. They were still able to sort of subdue that. But that comes down to that midfield pressure. If they don't get pressure on the ball, the Bulldogs midfield brigade, then those Bulldogs defenders will come unstuck, and we saw that in that second quarter. So that's going to be the challenge for the Bulldogs, but they've been the most consistent team with that all year.
And they're doing this tonight without Josh Dunkley, without Lockie Hunter as well. So this team can only get better. There's a few young kids in the Dogs 22. So we'll touch on their premiership credentials shortly, but we can head into the winners' rooms now. The Western Bulldogs defeating Port Adelaide by 19 points. So the Bulldogs go to 8-1 and temporarily at the top of the table, and it's their 900th win as a club as well. So congratulations to the Western Bulldogs for that. But yeah, that was the main question heading into tonight. We had third hosting second. Both sides really needed a win, I think, after a rough couple of weeks. After what you've seen tonight of the Western Bulldogs, we haven't called Melbourne here yet. We get them in a couple of weeks' time. But do you feel like there is now a team that's putting their hand up to say we are the team to beat in the Western Bulldogs, or is it still kind of Melbourne at the moment because they are unbeaten?
Yeah, well, I must admit I haven't looked closely at Melbourne in terms of who they've played and whether they've actually played some quality opposition. Clearly Richmond is the only team that's caused the Bulldogs any real concern. They obviously got over the top of them. Carlton arguably, for a quarter and a bit, quarter and a half last week, but they just wrestled control again, but once again, they've got quality. They bat really deep at the moment, the Bulldogs. Norton's important. So is Bruce, that two-prong attack. up there, and then they've got guys that are coming in and playing their roles in terms of like kicking their ones and twos through the forward line. As you say, they've still got a couple of players to potentially come back in as well. Port obviously got their injury concerns as well. Losing Cleary, that doesn't help moving forward as well. But they're going to get better, Port. I got no doubt about that. They'll get Butters back, they'll get Dersma back, Cleary will come back, they'll get Houston back. They're 4 pretty handy ins, to come back in the back half of the year. So I wouldn't be overly concerned, and I don't think Ken and the match committee would be overly concerned. The pleasing thing is they didn't get blown off the park, potentially like they did against Brisbane and obviously West Coast earlier in the year, where they got absolutely belted, particularly in that first half. So, yeah, there's some things that are consistent, no doubt about that, but I don't think it was as bad tonight as perhaps the Brisbane game a few weeks ago.
It's a good run coming up for the Power as well. So they get Collingwood next week, Freo after, so maybe they can get a little bit back of their momentum after what has been a rough month for them.
Yeah, definitely. You think they'd get that momentum back after what's been a pretty rough month for them, but as Campo mentioned before, when you've got class players like Butters, Houston and Dersma, and the run that they bring into this side, that's a huge difference. When those guys come back, I don't think they'll be all that worried, because it's a marathon and it's a long season, and you don't want to be playing your best footy right now. Okay, it's a timing thing, and as you get to the back end of the year, that's when you need to be playing your best footy. So get back to the Doggies. Look, their best is good enough. They have a wonderful spread of goal scorers. They're unpredictable. They get the overlap handball. They win enough of the inside-outside footy. That's an extremely dangerous football team. And then when you got guys like Joe Hansen, who hasn't been in great form, and he can bob up, and he looked energetic today, and he looked like he's about to hit his straps. But he's in a card deck. He's an ace up Bevo's, in his pack. They can use any time. So, look, the Doggies fans will be really excited, but there's still a long way to go. I think, ask me in about 10 rounds and I'll tell you exactly what's happening.
10 rounds, I hope you know what's happening, Gavin.
Because, the key thing as well is game management, time management on the field, about getting your players to peak at the right time so that you can withstand three weeks of finals football and possibly a grand final, that you're fresh enough to steam home. Because if you play all your good footy throughout the course of the year and you're a bit flat at the end of the year, you're not going to get any results.
And it sounds bad on paper that the Power are 6-3, but realistically they're still just outside the top 4 on percentage right now. So they don't need to catch up with games. They're still going at a good pace right now. Let's switch to the Western Bulldogs once again, because what an emphatic win it was for them. A 19-point win over Port Adelaide. They did control the majority of the game, probably had a lapse in the second quarter, but a dominant win to increase their premiership credentials. And we can head into the winners' rooms now. Josh Money is down with Caleb Daniel.
That's right, Aaron. We're in South Australia, Adelaide Oval, so we might as well talk to a local. Caleb, a big win for the boys. How important is that to come over here and beat a team like Port Adelaide, who haven't lost here all year?
Yeah, it's huge. I think, to be able to win without a few experienced players and that sort of stuff is obviously massive for our group. And to come over to Adelaide Oval and beat a Port Adelaide side that are really good and really experienced is massive for our group. So, their supporters are huge for them. And to be able to, I suppose, kick off the game how we did and I suppose silence them. I know that they came back in the second quarter and their supporters really got going. But, for us to come back out after half-time and be able to play the footy that we were was huge.
Because you have had injuries, Hunter out tonight and Dunkley as well out long-term, but such an impressive start to the season. What's been the catalyst to that? What's changed from last year to this year?
I think we're just playing our system and how we play footy, and everyone's bringing their strengths, to the game. And I suppose if, you're not having the best day stats-wise, there's guys bringing contests and pressure and reading the footy and doing their thing for the team. So I think it's all about that care that we have for each other and the team. And, it comes off a massive pre-season that we had, and we were able to really build on that. And it's coming out. We're able to run games out and be able to run teams off their feet. And, I suppose that's massive for, a semi-young group that we are.
26 touches, nothing new for you tonight, but your role has changed maybe a little bit, or it's alternated a little bit this year with Bailey Dale going down back. How's that been for you, and how have you enjoyed that that moving around the magnet board a bit?
Yeah, it's always nice to freshen things up, and I suppose Bevo's instilled that throughout the whole time that I've been there, that to be able to play all three lines, forward, mid and back, and it's just wherever the team needs me, and I suppose where Bevo thinks I'm best suited for the game style is where he'll chuck me. So I'm loving having Bailey Dale back there. He uses the footy so well, and he's really courageous in the air, and he's just helping out our back line so much. So it's great, and hopefully some guys start running with him and not me for a change. That'll be nice. But no, he's really implemented his game style to our game style as well.
And before I send you up to the box, Easton Wood, how is he doing? I know he's had some hamstring problems in the past. What sort of mood's he in?
Oh, he's a great team man. So he's ecstatic for the lads, and he's still a part of the group, and so he's super happy. He's obviously disappointed with a hammy. I don't know how bad it is. I think they're going to send him for scans, but not too sure how bad it is. It's obviously bad enough for him to come out and Crows come in, but he came in and played his role tremendously well. So it's awesome to have guys step in and be able to play, I suppose, that position as well.
I'll throw you up to the boys.
Caleb, Scott Camperelli, congratulations on the win and your year so far. I'm interested. I mean, you've got a star-studded midfield group, and I guess everyone talks about, the offensive side of the game, but the pressure that group puts on the opposition just allows you guys as a back six to get in better positions and obviously help each other, particularly in the air, because you are an undersized back six, for want of a better word. So that pressure up the ground is really important, and that was probably the key in the second quarter. Even though Port won ran the contest, it put you guys under severe pressure.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think every team sort of, it's really hard when it is sixes in front of the footy. If you're losing that centre bounce through the front and they're able to stream out, it's really hard to defend, and that sort of happened in the second quarter. But so the midfielders' credit, they rectified it really well, and we were able to put that heat on. And our half forwards, and even our big boys, Naughty and Big Juicy, were able to put the pressure on. And it's just awesome to see them do that and create high balls for us to read and get, like you said, in better positions to intercept the footy.
And you must be really pleased. I mean, Aaron Norton, he's a real focal point up there forward. He kicked his 4-3 contested marks, but I thought young Waitman took his opportunities tonight. Haven't seen a lot of him, but obviously when you're now on the top of the ladder tonight, there's guys that are going to be playing for positions and hopefully playing in finals, so he's desperate.
Yeah, he is, and he's strung some really good footy in the VFL, and he's able to, provide that sort of X factor. He's able to sit on heads and, kick miraculous goals, which is awesome. But it comes down to sort of his pressure and his, his willingness to run for the team and do the sort of 1%ers that probably don't come up on the stats sheets. It's got him a game. So, very pleasing for him to kick a few and just.
Caleb, Aaron Bryans here on ABC Sport. Thanks for joining us. A quick one about, before we get into the serious stuff, Luke Beveridge naming the team on Friday night ahead of tonight's contest. Had a few different players out of position, maybe having a bit of a jab at some of the Melbourne media, but he had you listed at Ruck Rover. Was there any discussion, did you get the chance to see the team sheets before they came out about the possibility of why you were named there?
No, I got a message from my mum actually saying I was playing in the ruck, which was a little bit strange, but I think they just maybe throw a couple of names down and they might actually take the piss a little bit themselves. But I wasn't going to go into the ruck roving position, I don't think. So, it might be Bevo just having a little laugh.
How do you find Luke Beveridge at the moment? Obviously, he's been with this side as a premiership winning team in 2016. There's been a lot of list changes since then and a couple of big names coming in. But what's he like as a coach in terms of his presence and the culture that you're creating?
Yeah, he's awesome. He's always been great. I think, he's sort of thought of as a mate before a coach in some senses, and he knows when to pull you into line, but he also, allows you to enjoy yourself, and it makes it so, enjoyable at the football club when he's in a really good mood, and he obviously has been this year with being able to win a fair few games, and his mood doesn't change too much when we drop one, but I suppose all the coaching staff and all the support staff have been massive for us this year, and we're looking to keep it rolling.
Caleb, Neil Cross, you talked a little bit about your changing role. I noticed a couple of times you were in the guise of chief intercept marker at the front of packs, and you got smashed a couple of times. Just wondering how sore you are in this new role.
Yeah, it's a unique role, I suppose, being someone that's under 170 to try and fly. But I think, like the boys alluded to, our back end's a little bit smaller, and we got to really help each other in the air. And if it's my turn to go, it's my turn to go. And I think, I pride myself on being someone that is quite courageous. And like I said, when it is my time to go, it's my time to go. And I caught the end of a couple today, but it's all in good fun, and I'm pretty happy with the win.
Just quickly on your personal game, do you feel the pressure now of people recognising your abilities back there and your disposal being so good? Do you feel that pressure at all when you're out there, just thinking, I've got to make this kick, I've got to make that kick, or it just still comes naturally for you?
No, I try not to think about the pressures of the game and just be able to play my role for the team. And I've had a couple of games this year where I've had minimal disposals and different things, and haven't been able to have an impact. But there's guys like I alluded to earlier, Bailey Dale, Bailey Williams, Anthony Scott that run through the back half, really set the game up for us. So I suppose if it's nullifying me and I'm not able to get my hands on it, and those guys are, it's really instrumental for the team. So there's plenty of weapons back there, and I try not to think too much about outside pressures.
Caleb, Gavin Wingeneen here. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate.
That's the way. Just really admire the way you use the footy, mate. You've got a great footy brain, and you make your possessions count nearly 100% of the time. I noticed until the last minute or so, you had 100% kicking efficiency tonight, so that's great. Great to see the good bull users out there, and you're definitely one of the best in the business. I've got one question for you. I'm a big admirer of the Bonts and the way he plays his footy, and I saw him pretty close tonight, the way he moves for, 6'3.5" or 6'4", and what sort of captain is he, if you could describe him in a few words? I mean, he's obviously a great player. Is he vocal? Is he not? Does he lead by example? Give us a little bit of insight, mate.
Yeah, he's just a genuine superstar, but it's not just the footy field, it's him as a guy, and he's super caring, and he'll go out of his way to make sure that everyone on the 45 playing list is happy, and he'll go out of their way to see how they're feeling, and that sort of stuff. I suppose he is obviously vocal when it comes time to it, but he does stand up in those moments, and I think that's what everyone admires about him. I don't think there's many people that dislike him as a player, and was said earlier, our midfield, to be able to put defensive pressure on, I think he probably leads the way, and there's not many, I suppose, superstars that do it both offensively and defensively. So it's been awesome, and I love being led by him.
Caleb, thanks for taking the time to chat to us. I understand you've got to duck off, but congratulations on the win.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
So the Western Bulldogs defeating Port Adelaide by 19 points, and great to hear that honesty from Caleb Daniel, I guess, about the culture inside the four walls, what seems to be working for the club, because I know on paper Adam Treloar is a big addition to them, but him alongside Mitch Hannon in this 22, you can't say that two players can change the way a team plays that drastically, and they're a team to beat right now. The Western Bulldogs have shot up the ladder, and it's got to be more than just Treloar coming in. There has to be some change in what Luke Beveridge is doing and how the game style has changed, and it's working for them right now.
Yeah, well, they played in a grand final, won a premiership, not long ago, so they've had their ups and downs since then, but we saw at the back end of last year they got themselves sort of back into some sort of contention. They've obviously gone away, had a really good summer, but that was a young group when they won in 2016. These guys have actually played another 60 to 80 games together since then. They've grown as a group, that demographic of group they've added as well, to the footy club. Those leaders have stepped up. Their good players are now A graders, so that makes a difference, and obviously Bevo and their coaching group, they've fine-tuned their game plan. I think they've actually gone back to some of the stuff that they did in 2016 in terms of the numbers around the ball, their handball, and you think about, numbers in the screen and actually winning that inside and then being able to use it on the outside. So, they're just in really good form. They believe, a bit like Richmond, they understand what they're about. They play a little bit different to what other teams do, and they're playing to their strengths. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are probably underrated. Libba tonight, probably not in the best 3 players on the ground, but probably in that top 6. He's back consistent again. He's not, not injured. I thought he was so influential tonight around the ball with his clearance and his contested work that goes unnoticed.
So Libba came into tonight's game first in the league for clearances and had 12 tonight. He's just massively flying under the radar in terms of, you've got all these big name players in the Western Bulldogs, but Tom Liberatore, who at times I think over the past few years may have fallen out of favour with Luke Beveridge, could arguably be their best and fairest in what he's doing in the middle right now.
Yeah, well, he's playing to his strengths. He's not worrying about all the extra stuff. He's rolling his sleeves up and he gets the ball out to those guys on the outside. And the guys like Bailey Smith, these guys on the outside are they get reward for what they're doing on the inside. And internally, Libba would be absolutely loved by that group in terms of what he's doing in there. So you need those players. You need the reliable ones that are just in and under that work and continually want to roll their sleeves up and make an influence on the game. But yeah, they've got some absolute quality as well, and they're doing it together. You can hear even from Caleb's conversation there. They're a united group at the moment, and you can see that.
So next for the Dogs, they have St Kilda at home on Saturday night and then Melbourne on Friday night in round 11. So that's going to be such a good game when Melbourne and the Dogs jump in. I jumped over the top of you there for a second.
I was just going to say, getting back to Libba, he's almost their most important player. He's their leader in contested possessions. He's the number 1 contested possession player at the Bulldogs. So that just goes to show the engine room, how important it is. You take him out of that side, there's a big gap. So, but for me, and just hearing how Caleb was talking about Bonts and how caring he is, that comes back down to culture that he's building along with the other leaders in the side, along with Bevo, building a culture that's gearing up for another grand final crack. And Campo, I agree with Campo, they're going back to a little bit of the 2016 where they were creating fast ball movement. They won their footy inside, outside. When you can combine those two together and you move the ball throughout the ground, no matter what part it is, especially the middle part of the ground, and you get your ball inside forward 50, unpredictable, the opposition backs have no idea. Even their own forwards don't have much of an idea. But one thing you will know is that there's going to be space and someone's going to pop up into the right area time and time again. And that's a huge advantage, especially that's how you win finals.
So the Western Bulldogs winners over Port Adelaide by 19 points. The other side of that coin is the Power, who've had a tough couple of losses to some big-name clubs, including the Eagles, the Lions, and now the Dogs. And Josh Money's ducked into their camp to chat to Darcy Byrne-Jones. Josh.
Yeah, Darcy, thanks for joining us on Grandstand. Disappointing result tonight. Where do you think it fell down? Obviously, a very good team, the Bulldogs. What didn't quite go right?
Yeah, look, I think they were able to beat us around the ball a little bit. They won contested possession, ground ball, which is something we really pride ourselves on. So, that's probably where the game was won and lost. We're still in the game late, so 8-9 points down with a few minutes to go. So we still gave ourselves a chance. But yeah, they were probably just a little bit cleaner around the ball.
Contest work in that first quarter probably quite costly in the end. I noticed that TJ, Tom Jonas, your captain, grabbed you at quarter time as a group. What did he have to say and what changed from there?
Yeah, look, he just said, we'd been in that position a couple of times this year down at quarter time and we hadn't been able to fight our way back in the game. So he just said it's a great opportunity for us to get ourselves back in the game and give ourselves a chance to have a good comeback win, which we're able to do. We went in half-time, only a couple of points down, but unfortunately they were just too good in the second half as well.
I'll ask you a question about Tom Cleary. How's his jaw? And secondly, how did that impact your defensive structure?
Yeah, I don't think it's looking too good, to be honest, for Tommy. I think he had a couple of teeth not looking too great, and then I don't think it's looking too good. He's in hospital at the moment with getting scanned, so fingers crossed for him. It does make a little bit of a difference, but I still think we're able to cover their tools reasonably well. But like I said, they were just too strong in the end.
I'll send you up to the boys.
Darcy, Scott Camporelli here. It was a toot and fro really between the contest on the night. They obviously got hold of you in the first quarter, but you were able to fight back in that second quarter, and then it was sort of an arm wrestle from there. What was Ken's message at half-time?
His message was pretty simple, just to keep keep being tough, keep being first to the ball, keep winning the ball and getting it forward and giving our forwards a chance, and then trying to lock it in from there, which we're able to do in patches throughout the game, but it's not something we're able to consistently do, which is probably what cost us in the end.
And to be fair, I mean, up here, your back six has been pretty solid all year, to be fair. I mean, I think you're ranked second or third, points against, and I know it's a team defence mentality, but I felt like tonight, Elias had a great year, but I just felt like he was too far off tonight and enabled some of their key forwards to jump and mark the ball.
Yeah, look, what Elias been able to do for us so far this year has been, amazing, really. And if you play the way we do, get aggressive and play in front, play front shoulder. The ball, we rely on the ball having a bit of delay and coming in high. So if that ball doesn't do that, then us defenders can look a little bit silly at times.
Das, Gavin Wangadine here. How are you, mate?
Good, Gav. Good to speak to you.
Yeah, you too, buddy. Bad luck tonight. Just want to ask about Butters and Dersma. I mean, obviously very important running players for you guys. How far away are they, and how important are those young fellas to your side at the moment? Well, when they come back in.
Yeah, they're obviously two young guys that really bring a lot of energy and a lot of spirit for us. I think they're still a little while off. Butts, he's unfortunately had a bit of nerve damage through his surgery, so he's still a little while off, and Dersma's back running today, I think, so he might only be a few weeks away, but those two guys are really important for us, and we're really looking forward to getting them back in when they're right to go.
Yeah, well, it's obviously a very long season, so there won't be any panic stations at all, coming from your thinking as a team, your professional outfit, you guys. But I think there's plenty of good things that you guys can continue to keep building on. You weren't far out of the game. They're going to. It's great to come up against a great side like that, but which I think the Power have got plenty of improvement to come when injuries come back, and just work out a way to when the ball goes inside your forward 50, to be able to keep it in, like you said, a little bit better, and because the forwards were probably a little bit slow to keep that pressure on and keeping it in throughout the course of the game tonight, I thought.
Yeah, look, I think the positive we can take out of this is that we know what we did wrong tonight, and we know why our 3 losses have happened this year, which it's pretty simple. We got beaten around the ball and beaten in contested ball and ground ball, so if you can take a positive out of the loss, it's we know what we need to work on, and we know what we need to do next week to rectify what happened tonight.
That's it, spot on.
Darcy, thank you for joining us in the post-game, and a disappointing result, but we hope you bounce back next week against the Pies.
Cheers, boys.
That's Darcy Byrne-Jones from Port Adelaide. So the Western Bulldogs winners here in round 9, Saturday night football at the Adelaide Oval, and they won 15-6-96 to Port Adelaide's 12-5-77. So coming up next for the Power is a game against Collingwood on Sunday afternoon next weekend. That's away as well. Meanwhile, for the Western Bulldogs, they'll host St Kilda Saturday night next week. And Port seem to have a pretty favourable run over the next few weeks. So Collingwood, Freo and a bye. The Dogs have the Saints, Melbourne and Freo. And we just wait away until 2 weeks' time when we get to see that Friday night clash between the Dogs and the D's and decide who actually is really the team to beat in the competition right now. You're 3-2-1, gents, for the evening. Would have been mostly Dogs, I imagine.
Yeah, I didn't really discuss it with Gav, so I hope he agrees. We both love Bont, in terms of what he did. He had 26 possessions. He kicked it at 81%. His ball use, 11 contested possessions, and 2 goals. We just thought he was so influential. I thought Aaron Norton ahead of the ball just was a real solid focal point. 3 contested marks, 4 goals, and not only that, he competed and brought the ball to ground, so Waitman and these guys that were in the forward line had other opportunities. And I thought, apologies to Libba, but I thought Jack McRae was probably just ahead of him on the night in terms of his influence through the game and around the ground. Just the way he moves, he puts players into time and space with his hands and uses the ball really well. So 3 to Bont, 2 to Norton and 1 to McRae.
Tim English back next week as well for the Dogs, I imagine, unless this concussion continues to get more and more serious. So he's missed 2 weeks now, more than the minimum required, and it was expected he'd play this week. It was kind of last minute that he was ruled out. So if he does come back in, do you think Jordan Sweet did enough tonight to stay as the solo ruck? Can they play in tandem, or do you think that Tim English just comes in and knocks him out?
Oh, look, I don't think they'd play in tandem. I'm not sure that they need two tall timbers, particularly with Norton and Bruce forward. I don't think they need to do that. I think what they would be looking for is Steph Martin to come back. You know, he's the one that potentially, you know, adds a different and a bit more mature body through there. But once again, they showed tonight, the Bulldogs, and they have for most of the year, really, that the ruck is important to get at least a 50-50 contest, and it probably was 50-50, to be fair, in terms of Laddams and his contest. But, you know, at ground level, they've got a really good method and system at ground level. So I'm not sure they'd be rushing him back in, you know, at this stage.
Campo, Gav, thanks for your contributions this evening.
Thanks.
No worries. Thanks for having us.
Great game in the end. A bit of back and forth. Thanks to Neil Cross. Thanks to Paul Brokenshire Tech. Thanks to Josh Money down on the boundary. Andrew Williamson back in the studio. Plenty of games to come tomorrow in the AFL. I should mention the other score as well. The Tigers defeating the Giants by 4 points at Docklands, coming from behind to win there. And here, the Western Bulldogs defeating the Power by 19 points. So the 3 games tomorrow. The Bombers host the Dockers at Docklands to start things off in terms of the triple header. Then we've got Melbourne up against Carlton. If the Demons win that, they take back top spot over the Western Bulldogs. And then we conclude round 9 with the West Coast Eagles hosting the Adelaide Crows at Perth Stadium. Here at the Adelaide Oval, though, it was the Western Bulldogs who led for the majority of the night. And they led by 25 points at quarter time. Just one at the major break after the Power did get back in front midway through the second quarter, but it was all the Dogs from there. 19-point lead at three-quarter time, and that was the margin they won by. 15-6, 96 to 12-5, 77. Aaron Norton and Cody Waitman Aaron Norton had 4 goals. Cody Waitman had 3, and then 2 to Bruce, also Bontempelli and Johannesson. So the votes from Scott Camporelli and Gavin Wanganeen went 3 to Marcus Bontempelli, 2 to Aaron Norton, and 1 to Jack McRae. Thanks for your company. Thanks to everyone who texted in. Congratulations to the Dogs and the Tigers. Also to the Swans, North Melbourne, and the Lions, who won early this afternoon. Here's the highlights from Adelaide Oval. Could have moved it on if he wanted to. Decides to in the end. Flat kick to the pocket. Fantasia takes it on the chest. 40 from goal. Starts outside the 50. Kicks from 45. Never looked like missing. The Dogs through Smith now. Gets it to Liberatore. Skies it from 45. Bruce is rising there in the goal square and got it. Josh Bruce. Third for goals coming into this round. Continues his tally.
Inside 50 again go the Dogs. Off the hands. It came to Waitman from Johannesson. And Waitman from 35 sends it home for another one for the Dogs. And now he's got it in his hands from Liberatore. And inside 50, this time it is Norton. So from 35 metres, kicks straight. The Dogs are well and truly up and yapping.
Flicked it out to McRae, then Bontempelli shrugs 3 tackles, curls it from 45. Marcus Bontempelli!
And Robbie Gray holds and waits, and he's got a runner outside him. And Hartlett bangs from 55 wide out. Makes no difference. What a kick! Long and strong from Hamish Hartlett. He got to Motlop, and then Motlop went wide to the left foot of Farrell. Farrell inside 50, 25 from goal off hands. Fantasia Rhodes. Fantasia goals.
Reset in front of the goals. Keith tries to take it out of the ruck against Dixon. Flipped out by Fantasia to Wines, who curls it from 10 out. Put Adelaide are in front. Sends it into the 50 for the Dogs. Bruce is at the back. Aaliyah crunches him, but it doesn't matter. Bruce stands strong and takes the mark. 40 from goal, straight in front. And he'll kick just inside the paint. It's flat, but it has plenty of distance. And the goal umpire doesn't have to move.
60 from goal. Goes into the pocket and Norton rises from behind. And he was so high, he took it on his chest.
Smiling too, that's a good mark.
Not all that much of an acute angle. And he goes around on the left foot and slams it through for the Dogs. Sent it goalwards. High ball. Norton comes. Pack comes. Hannon gets it off the pack and snaps a goal. Oh, the Doggies. They're up and running again.
It's built to Amon, 35 from goal. Faked and gave it to Drew. He should have just kicked it. Back to Gray, who slips as he kicks it. Bounces through the legs of Trelaw. Clean ball. Amazing!
That's the ultimate nutmeg.
We're halfway through the final quarter. They can creep back again. Port Adelaide, Dixon this time. Sent it to the right, but just inside the right post. They get close again. They're within 8 points again. Bontempelli with a clearance out of the middle, and Norton with a mark. Juggled it, got rid of his man. 26 minutes into the last quarter, and Norton comes in and makes no mistake. His third of the night, and the Dogs look home.
And that will do us here at the Adelaide Oval. The Western Bulldogs find their bite and prove exactly why they're a contender. The Western Bulldogs defeat Port Adelaide by 19 points at the Adelaide.